Hello, friends. Welcome to the darkest corners of the open road. I'm Dr. Crooked, and what you're about to hear isn't fiction. These are true horror stories from truckers who've seen the things most of us pray we never do. Before we shift into gear, tell me, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your location in the comments so I know who's riding with me across these haunted highways. If you like your horror raw, real, and wrapped in diesel smoke, hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like and share it with someone who thinks nothing scary ever happens after dark. Got a chilling tale of your own from the road? The comment box is open. Now buckle up, friends, because on this road, some loads never make it to their destination. The steering wheel is cold under my fingers, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones after 14 straight hours on the road. And the hum of the tires on the asphalt is the only sound in the cab besides the low crackle of the CB radio and the occasional hiss of air brakes from the rigs I pass, or the ones that pass me, their headlights flaring in my mirrors like the eyes of some hungry animal. The dash lights flicker just enough to be annoying, casting a sickly green glow over the speedometer stuck at a steady 65. The needle trembling like it's afraid to move, and outside, the night is so black it feels like I'm driving through a void, the white lines on the highway the only thing keeping me from drifting off into nothing. I rub my eyes, gritty from too much caffeine and not enough sleep, and that's when I see it. No, see him. A figure walking along the shoulder, his back to me, his stride slow but deliberate, like he's got all the time in the world. No. First, I think it's just some hitchhiker, some poor bastard stranded out here in the middle of nowhere. But then he turns his head, just slightly, and the blood in my veins turns to ice because it's me. Same faded denim jacket, same scuffed work boots, same 3-day stubble I'd scratched at in the mirror at the last truck stop. My foot jerks off the gas and the rig lurches, the trailer groaning behind me, but I can't look away, can't breathe, because he's staring right at me now. His face a perfect mirror of my own, except his eyes. His eyes are wrong, too wide, too knowing, like he's been waiting for this moment for years. I slam the gas again, my heart hammering against my ribs, telling myself it's just fatigue, just a trick of the light. But then he smiles, slow and deliberate, and raises a hand. My hand, in a wave that's too familiar, like he's greeting an old friend. The CB crackles to life, a burst of static, and then a voice, my voice, whispers, "You've been driving a long time, haven't you?" I fumble for the volume knob, my fingers numb, but the voice keeps going. "You ever wonder what happens if you stop?" And outside, the other me is keeping pace with the truck now, walking faster, his steps matching the rotation of the wheels, his grin stretching wider than any human mouth should. I grip the wheel so hard my knuckles pop, my breath coming in ragged gasps, because this isn't happening. It can't be happening, but the radio keeps whispering, "Look at the road. Really look." And when I do, the white lines aren't lines anymore. They're fingers, pale and skeletal, reaching up from the asphalt, and the highway ahead isn't straight. It's a loop, the same stretch of road I've been driving for hours, the same mile marker I've passed 3 times. Now! The other me is laughing, a sound like radio static and breaking glass. And then he's inside the cab, sitting in the passenger seat, his skin peeling back like old wallpaper to reveal something dark and squirming beneath. "You should have slept when you had the chance," he says. And the last thing I see before the windshield cracks into 1,000 shards is the odometer rolling over to all zeros, the numbers clicking into place like a lock snapping shut. The 4. Engine screams like a dying animal as the rig veers off the road, tires chewing through gravel and dirt. But the other me doesn't move, doesn't flinch, just keeps smiling as the cab tilts, as the world outside becomes a blur of shadows and fractured light. My hands are locked on the wheel, but it's not me controlling it anymore. Something else is steering, something that's been steering for a long time. And the realization hits me like a fist to the gut. I never left the driver's seat. The air smells like burnt rubber and something sweet, something rotting, and the radio is still whispering. But now it's not just my voice. It's hundreds, thousands of voices, all mine, all saying the same thing in perfect unison. "You've always been here." The windshield shatters inward. But the glass doesn't fall, it hangs in the air, each shard reflecting a different version of me, some younger, some older, some with hollowed-out eyes and mouths sewn shut, and the other me reaches over, his fingers brushing my arm, and where he touches me, my skin turns gray, lifeless, like I'm becoming part of the seat, part of the truck, part of the road. The headlights flicker and die, and in the sudden darkness I feel the cab dissolving around me, the seatbelt melting into my chest, the steering wheel fusing with my bones, and the last thing I hear before the darkness swallows me whole is the sound of an engine starting somewhere far away, the hum of tires on asphalt, and a voice, my voice, muttering, "Just a little further now." And then I'm back in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, the highway stretching endlessly ahead, the same green glow of the dashboard, the same crackle of the CB, and when I glance at the shoulder I see him again, the other me, walking, waiting, smiling. But this time I don't slow down. This time I know better. This time, I just keep driving because the road never ends and neither do I. The speedometer needle trembles again, stuck at 65, and I realize with a sickening lurch that it's always been stuck there, that I've never gone faster or slower, that the road has never changed. Just the same stretch of blacktop and the same pale fingers of fog curling up from the ditches like they're trying to pull me under. The other me is still there, always there, just a few feet beyond my window, matching my speed step for step, his face tilted toward me with that same knowing grin. And now I notice his lips are moving, mouthing words I can't hear but somehow understand anyway. "You thought you were the first one?" The CB crackles again, and this time it's not just voices, it's screams, my own screams, layered over each other in a chorus of terror, and beneath them, a wet, grinding noise like an engine chewing itself apart from the inside. My reflection outside keeps pace effortlessly, his boots not quite touching the ground, his shadow stretching too long and too thin, merging with the darkness until I can't tell where he ends and the night begins. The air in the cab is thick, now cloying, like the smell of old blood and diesel fumes, and when I try to roll down the window, the handle comes off in my hand, rusted and brittle as if it's been rotting for years. The other me laughs soundlessly, his teeth too white, too sharp, and then he points ahead, just as the headlights catch something lying in the road. A body. My body. Same jacket, same boots, same face frozen in a scream, and I slam the brakes, but the truck doesn't slow, the wheels don't screech, and I brace for impact, but it never comes. Instead, the road beneath me opens, the asphalt splitting like a wound, and I'm falling, still strapped into my seat, the cab collapsing around me like a dying beast. And the last thing I see before the darkness takes me is the other me standing at the edge of the rift, waving goodbye as the highway stitches itself back together above me. Then, engine noise, the hum of tires, the flicker of dashboard lights, my hands on the wheel, the shoulder of the road, the other me, walking, waiting, smiling. And I know, with a certainty that cracks my mind like a dry branch, that I've been here before, that I'll be here again, that the road doesn't end. It feeds. The steering wheel is slick under my palms now, not from sweat, but something thicker, darker, seeping up through the leather like the truck itself is bleeding. And when I lift, my hands the stains remain, handprints that aren't mine, or maybe ones that always were. The radio dials turn by themselves, scanning through frequencies of static and choked sobs, and my own voice whispering, "Turn around, turn around, turn around," until I rip the wires from the dashboard with a scream that doesn't sound human anymore. Outside, the other me is multiplied, dozens now, hundreds, a procession of duplicates stretching back along the shoulder as far as I can see, all in perfect step, all with their heads tilted at the same unnatural angle, their eyes reflecting, my headlights like animals caught in the glow. One by one they begin pointing, not at me but past me, toward the empty passenger seat where the upholstery is splitting open like a wound, spilling out strands of something wet and glistening, that twitch toward my leg with terrible purpose. The air smells of ozone and spoiled meat as the first tendril brushes my ankle, and suddenly, I remember. The crash that wasn't a crash, the way the semi's grill had folded around that hitchhiker's body last winter, the way I'd told myself it wasn't my fault as I kept driving, kept forgetting, kept pretending the face in my rear view hadn't been my own. The duplicates are chanting now, a hollow chorus that vibrates through the truck's frame. You left, you left, you left. And the thing in the passenger seat is taking shape, a mangled version of myself with a caved-in skull and ribs jutting through denim, smiling with shattered teeth as its hands, my hands, close around the wheel. The last sane part of my mind shatters as I realize the truth. I never survived that night. The road has been my purgatory, my punishment, an endless loop of denial unraveling in real time. The other me in the driver's seat turns its ruined face toward me and whispers, "Your turn to walk." As the cab dissolves into smoke and screams, and suddenly I'm outside, stumbling along the shoulder, watching my own face speed past behind the wheel, over and over and over, as the taillights recede into a darkness that has no end, only hunger. The pavement bites into my bare feet. When did I lose my boots? And with each step, the road drinks the blood, leaving no trace behind. The procession of me's stretches ahead now, too, an infinite line in both directions, all of us shambling, in unison, our breaths fogging in air that gets colder with every mile that isn't a mile. Sometimes a truck roars past, and in the flash of headlights, I see the driver's face, my face, always my face. Eyes wide with fresh horror, hands, white-knuckled on the wheel, just beginning to understand. The stars above are wrong, arranged in shapes that hurt to look at, and when I tilt my head back too far, my neck cracks like dry kindling, locking in place so I can't look away from the thing that hangs in the sky. A black, pulsing mass with too many eyes, all mine, all weeping rust-colored tears that sizzle when they hit the asphalt. The other walkers are whispering now, passing a secret down the line like a grotesque game of telephone. And when it reaches me, the words slither into my ears like maggots. You were never driving. You were always the road. The realization splits me open. The hunger in the dark, the way the white lines curl like fingers, the way every trucker who passes has my face. Because roads don't just go places, they consume, and I've been feeding it for eternity with my denial. Up ahead, a figure peels away from the procession, stepping into the lane where a semi bears down, its horn screaming in a voice I recognize. This time, I don't close my eyes. This time, I smile. The impact is beautiful, a symphony of breaking. Bones and rending metal, a baptism of gasoline and sparks. And as my remains paint the asphalt, I finally understand the secret. The road isn't hungry. It's grateful. And it's always time to eat again. Somewhere, an engine turns over. A key clicks in the ignition. A foot presses the accelerator. And far away, but getting closer, 100,000 copies of my own face flicker in the dark, waiting to take their turn behind the wheel. The moment my blood soaks into the asphalt, the road shudders beneath me. No, not a road anymore, but something alive, something ancient, its surface rippling like the skin of a great black beast waking from a long sleep. The other versions of myself dissolve one by one, their faces melting like wax, their screams absorbed into the grinding hum of engines that never stop. I try to stand, but my legs are gone, my body unraveling into thick, tarry strands that weave themselves into the pavement, becoming part of the hunger, part of the endless cycle. The last thing I see with human eyes is another truck rounding the bend, my rig, my cab. But the man behind the wheel isn't me anymore. Or maybe he's all the versions of me that ever were, his face cycling through expressions of confusion, terror, and finally dawning realization as he spots my remains smeared across the road. His brakes don't work. They never do. The impact is distant this time, a muffled crunch that sends new vibrations through my new form. And as his blood mingles with mine, I feel the road stretch longer, the hunger grow deeper. The cycle continues. It always continues. New headlights appear in the distance. Another engine growls. Another set of hands grips a steering wheel. And beneath it all, beneath the asphalt and the painted lines and the countless lives digested by this stretch of highway, I whisper the same words that were whispered to me, the same words that will be whispered to every lost soul who ever wonders why the shoulder of the road sometimes looks so crowded at night. Keep driving. Don't stop. Don't ever stop. The wheels turn. The road breathes. And somewhere, Another version of me glances out the window, eyes widening as he sees his own face staring back from the darkness. The feast never ends. The headlights slice through the gloom once more, and now I feel them all. Every trucker who ever vanished on this stretch of road, their bones ground into the blacktop, their screams trapped in the rumble strips like grooves on a record stuck replaying the same moment of terror. The new driver's face is already changing, his features shifting, rearranging into the familiar stubble and weary eyes I've worn for eternity. He hasn't noticed yet. Not the way his hands are fusing with the steering wheel, not the way his reflection in the side mirror winks at him with hollowed-out eyes. I try to warn him, but my voice is the wind now, the groan of suspension, the hiss of tires on wet pavement. He rolls down his window, spits into the night, and his saliva hits the asphalt with a sound like a dying man's last gasp. The road drinks it greedily. The hunger sharpens. Behind him, in the sleeper berth, something stirs. A shadow with his face but wrong, all stretched and jagged like a reflection in a funhouse mirror. It whispers his name with my voice. When he turns to look, the truck swerves. The white lines on the road uncoil like snakes, lashing around the tires, pulling him toward the shoulder where the other me's stand waiting with open arms and mouths too wide. They don't need to breathe anymore. They only need him to join the feast. The last thing he'll ever see is the odometer rolling back to zero. The first thing he'll feel as pavement meets flesh is the terrible understanding. He was never driving home. He was always driving into the road's gaping maw, and as his bones become part of the highway, as his screams join the chorus and the guardrails, I welcome him the way I was welcomed, the way countless others before us were welcomed. The road stretches longer. The hunger grows deeper. Another set of headlights appears in the distance. Another engine hums the song of the doomed. Another reflection waves from the shoulder, and the cycle, beautiful, terrible, eternal, continues. The truck shudders as it crosses the exact mile marker where the road first tasted me, its tires now rolling over my teeth embedded in the asphalt like tiny white mile markers of their own. The new driver, my driver, gasps as the radio snaps on by itself, playing our voice backward beneath layers of engine noise and the wet crunch of things moving beneath the road's surface. His fingers sink into the steering wheel like it's made of wet clay. The dashboard lights etching our shared face onto his retinas in after-image burns that'll never fade. Outside, the procession of yes walks with new purpose, their limbs jerking like marionettes as they point to the freshly painted roadkill ahead. A deer with our eyes, our screaming mouth. Just as the brakes fail exactly as designed. The impact judders through me like a lover's sigh, hot blood spraying across the windshield in Rorschach patterns that whisper, "You're next, you're next, you're next." The driver's door creaks open by itself, the cab's interior lights revealing what's been hiding in the sleeper berth all along. A nest of our own hair and teeth and fingernails, pulsing around the remains of every version of us that came before. The road sings through the cracks in his skull as he finally understands. There is no truck. There never was. Just the hungry dark wearing a truck's shape, wearing our shape, forever picking up hitchhiking souls at the same cursed mile marker, where the nightmare first unspooled. His last human scream is cut short as the pavement rises to meet him in a lover's embrace, his body unraveling into mile markers and guardrail reflectors that'll wink at the next me who comes along. The cycle doesn't just continue, it thrives. The hunger doesn't just feed, it celebrates. And as another set of headlights crests the hill, another pair of hands death grips another steering wheel, I lean in close from my place in the Y. Asphalt and whisper the only truth that remains. Welcome home, me. The road stretches longer, the hunger grows deeper, the feast never ends. The headlights dissolve into the blackness ahead as the newest version of us grips the wheel with fingers that are already half pavement, his screams muffled by the road's thick, suffocating embrace. I can taste his terror in the tar, sour and metallic, like blood and diesel, as the last fragments of his humanity dissolve into the endless highway. The sleeper cab's curtains rustle with things that have no right to move, their shapes too many-jointed, their whispers too full of teeth, and when he turns to look, because he always looks, the seat beside him is no longer empty. It's filled with us. 100 fractured reflections stacked and writhing, each one reaching out with hands that split into asphalt tendrils, burying beneath his skin like roots seeking fertile soil. The windshield cracks in a spiderweb pattern, but the fractures don't spread randomly. They form words. The same 3 words etched into every driver's bones since the first victim fed the hunger. Become the road. His mouth opens in a silent scream as the truck's cab distends like a stomach, the roof peeling back to reveal a sky that isn't sky but a vast, pulsing throat lined with headlights instead of stars. The procession of youths on the shoulder begins to march in time with the grinding of gears, their bodies unraveling into guardrail posts, their faces stretching into reflective strips that will wink at the next driver, and the next, and the next. The road isn't just hungry anymore, it's joyous. Drunk on the endless feast of souls who never realized they were already part of the menu. The tires roll on, now fused with the pavement, the engine's roar becoming the hungry growl of something older than time, something that has always existed just beneath the thin veneer of asphalt and sanity. And as the last flicker of him fades into the blacktop, as his memories become mine and mine become the road's, I see it. The truth written in blood and oil and broken yellow lines. There is no escape. Only the feast, only the wheel, only I, the road, forever. Another engine rumbles in the distance. Another set of hands tightens on another steering wheel. Another face, my face, glances nervously at the shoulder, where a familiar figure walks, waiting, smiling. The hunger stirs, the cycle continues. The road lives, and we are all its willing sacrifices. The steering wheel is cold under my fingers again. No, not my fingers, not anymore. But the hands of the latest me, the newest me. The me who still believes he's alive as he white-knuckles the wheel and tries not to stare at the procession of duplicates marching alongside his rig. I want to warn him, but my voice is the screech of tires now, the groan of overloaded axles, the whisper of wind through cracked windows. His breath comes in panicked hitches as he notices the odometer, not miles counting up but counting down, the numbers spiraling towards some terrible zero he can't comprehend yet. The radio crackles to life without being touched, spewing a garbled mess of every curse he's ever muttered under his breath, every prayer he's ever choked out in fear, all in his own voice. Outside, the walking versions of us have begun to merge, their bodies bleeding together like wax, forming something colossal that keeps pace with the truck effortlessly. Its too many faces pressed against the passenger window, smearing the glass, with something thick and dark that might be blood, or might be asphalt, or might be the liquefied remains of the last dozen drivers who sat in this very seat. The sleeper cab rattles as something huge shifts inside, its breath hot and reeking of gasoline and rotting meat. And when he risks a glance in the mirror, he doesn't see the trailer. He sees an endless tunnel of gnashing teeth made from shredded tire treads and broken headlights, waiting to swallow him whole. The road beneath has started to pulse like a living thing, the painted lines squirming like worms, the mile markers now tallying not distance but victims, each number written in a handwriting he recognizes as his own. His screams are beautiful as the cab begins to digest him, the seatbelt fusing with his ribs, the gear shift plunging through his palm like a spike, the windshield wipers scraping across his eyes as they become part of the glass. The last thing he'll ever understand, the thing we all understand in that final moment, is that the road wasn't hungry for us. It was hungry for itself, and we were just the means by which it grew. Another engine roars in the distance. Another pair of hands finds the wheel. Another set of eyes glances at the shoulder. The feast continues. The road expands. And somewhere in the darkness, a version of me that was never me at all smiles with a mouthful of headlights and waits for the next course to arrive. The steering wheel is no longer cold. It pulses now. A slow, rhythmic heartbeat vibrating through my fingers as the truck's cab warps around me, the dashboard melting like candle wax to reveal the raw, glistening muscle beneath. The odometer has stopped counting altogether, its numbers replaced by a single word etched in jagged, desperate scratches. Run. But there's nowhere to run. The road has curled upward on both sides like the fingers of a closing fist, the night sky replaced by a ceiling of knotted asphalt veins dripping black oil that burns where it lands. The procession of me's outside has stopped walking. They're watching now, standing perfectly still with their heads tilted too far to one side, their grinning mouths unhinging like snakes as they begin to chant in a language that predates pavement, a guttural mantra that makes the air vibrate with wrongness. The sleeper cab's curtain tears open on its own, revealing what's been growing back there. A pulsing tumorous mass of fused driver's licenses, each one bearing my name, my photo, but with the expiration dates all reading. Tonight. The radio screams in 100 overlapping voices, all mine, all begging for mercy that never came, while the gear shift twists like a living thing in my grip, burrowing deeper into my palm, until I can feel it clicking against my bones. The windshield is crying thick, syrupy tears that streak the glass with the faces of everyone the road has ever consumed. Their hollow eyes locking onto mine with terrible recognition. The brakes don't exist anymore, just a gaping hole where the pedal should be, filled with squirming tendrils that taste of diesel and regret. The road isn't beneath me now. It's inside me, unspooling through my veins like liquid shadow, rewriting my DNA into something that fits its hunger better. The last thing I see before my eyes dissolve into fuel is the rear-view mirror, where 1,000 versions of me are still driving, still gripping their wheels, still screaming soundlessly as the road takes them to an endless convoy of damned souls merging into the asphalt, becoming the very thing that devoured us. The hunger isn't satisfied. It's awake. And it's already turning its attention toward the next set of headlights cresting the horizon. The cycle doesn't continue. It evolves, and we are all its willing architects. The engine's low growl is the only thing keeping me sane as the white lines blur under my headlights, mile after mile of empty highway stretching into the black. The kind of dark that feels like it's pressing against the windows, like it's trying to get in, and I've been driving for so long my eyes ache from staring into it. My hands welded to the wheel, sweat slick between my fingers because something's wrong. Wrong in a way that claws at the back of my skull. Wrong like the way the CB radio crackles to life every night at exactly 2:17 a.m. That same staticky whisper slithering through the speakers. Pull over. Just pull over. A voice that starts human, desperate, a hitch in it like someone's crying, but by the third time it repeats. It's deeper, wetter, like the words are being chewed up and spat out, and I can't stop myself from glancing at the passenger seat where the radio sits, the red light blinking like an eye, like it's watching me. And I tell myself it's just some sick joke, some asshole playing games. But then I see them, shadows, tall and too thin, keeping pace with the rig just beyond the reach of my high beams, their legs moving wrong, too many joints, and when I jerk the wheel to avoid a pothole, the thud that follows isn't from the suspension, it's from the roof, something heavy landing up there, something that drags itself across the trailer with a sound like nails on metal, and the smell hits me next, rotting meat and wet earth, seeping through the vents, thick enough to choke on, and I crank the window down just to breathe. But the air outside is worse, hot and sour, like something's been dead out there for a long time. And the GPS flickers, the screen glitching, always resetting to the same coordinates no matter how far I drive, the exit signs repeating, "Welcome to nowhere, welcome to nowhere." And the CB screeches again, "Pull over." The voice now a roar, 100 voices layered into one, and I hear other truckers screaming on the channel before their signals cut out in bursts of static. Their last words always the same. They're on the roof. They're on the roof. And I floor the gas, the rig shuddering, the engine screaming. But the shadows keep up, their arms too long, their fingers tapping at the windows, and the thing on the roof is crawling closer to the cab, the trailer groaning under its weight, and the radio's voice is inside my head now. You can't run forever, and I know it's right, because the highway's looping. The same broken-down billboard flashing by every 10 minutes. The same dead tree with something hanging from its branches. And the fuel gauge is dropping too fast, the needle sinking toward empty, and the shadows are laughing, a sound like bones breaking, and the CB shrieks one last time. Stop running. And I realize, they don't want help. They don't want mercy. They just want me to stop. To step out into the dark where they're waiting, where they've always been waiting. And the worst part is, I'm starting to think I should, because the headlights aren't mine anymore. They're eyes. Glowing yellow, blinking slow, and the road isn't a road, it's a throat. And I'm driving deeper down, and the radio's voice is my own now, and I'm the one whispering, "Pull over," as the shadows reach for the door. The steering wheel vibrates under my grip, the rig's engine straining like a dying animal as I push it harder, faster. But the speedometer hasn't moved in miles, stuck at 65, no matter how much I press the gas. Like the road itself is holding me in place, and the shadows outside are closer now. Their shapes resolving into something almost human, but not. Faces stretched too wide, mouths splitting open in grins that show too many teeth, their fingers tapping against the glass in a rhythm that matches my heartbeat. Tap, tap, tap. Like they're counting down, and the CB radio is humming now. A low, droning noise that burrows into my ears, vibrating in my skull, and the voice is back. But it's not just one anymore. It's dozens. Hundreds. Overlapping, whispering, screaming, begging, "Pull over, pull over, pull over." And I can't tell if they're inside the radio or inside my head, and the thing on the roof is dragging itself forward, the metal groaning under its weight. And I can hear it breathing, wet and ragged, like its lungs are full of something thick, something alive. And the smell is worse now, like spoiled milk and open graves. And I gag, my stomach heaving. But I can't look away from the road because the headlights are dimming, flickering. And in the flashes of darkness I see them. More of them, standing in the middle of the highway, arms outstretched, their bodies too tall, too thin, their heads lolling to the side like their necks are broken. And I swerve, the rig shuddering, the trailer fishtailing, but they don't move, they just watch, their eyes reflecting the dying light. And the GPS screen is bleeding now, black liquid oozing from the edges, the map dissolving into nonsense, the same coordinates flashing over and over. 476062 again, 1223321 WI. A place I've never been, a place that doesn't exist, and the radio is screaming, "You're already here." And the shadows are inside the cab now, their fingers brushing my neck, their breath cold against my skin. And the thing on the roof is scratching at the ceiling, its nails digging through the metal, and I know that if I stop, if I pull over, they'll take me, they'll peel me open and fill me with whatever they are. But the road is endless, the night is forever, and the voice on the radio is mine. It's always been mine. And the last thing I hear before the headlights die completely is my own laughter, echoing through the static as the shadows close in. The wheel jerks in my hands like something alive, fighting me, and I realize with a sick lurch that it's not the road twisting, it's the truck itself, the metal groaning as it bends in ways it shouldn't. The cab, warping around me like a funhouse mirror, and the shadows are pouring in now, slipping through the cracks in the doors, oozing up from the floorboards, their bodies made of smoke and static, their fingers curling around my ankles, my wrists pulling, always pulling, and the CB radio is melting, the plastic bubbling like wax, the voice inside it gurgling, choking. You were never alone out here. And the headlights flicker one last time, illuminating the thing standing in the road ahead. Tall. So tall its head scrapes the sky, its limbs knotted and too many, its face a shifting void where a face should be, and it's reaching for me, its hands unspooling like rope, stretching across the asphalt, and I slam the brakes but the pedal goes soft under my foot. The rig sliding, never stopping, and the shadows are inside my mouth now, filling my throat, their voices humming in my bones. And the thing on the roof finally crashes through, its body a tangle of limbs and teeth, its breath like gasoline and rotting meat, and it whispers, "We've been waiting for you." And the last thing I see before the dark swallows me whole is the odometer rolling back to 0, the numbers clicking backward like time itself is unraveling, and the road ahead isn't a road anymore. It's a mouth, wide and hungry, and the rig is speeding straight into it, and the voice on the radio is singing now, soft and sweet. No more running, no more running. And I realize, too late, that the night never ends, the road never ends, and I was never driving at all. The darkness folds over me like a second skin, pressing in until I can't tell where my body ends and the cab begins. The steering wheel fused to my palms in a grip that will never loosen. The seatbelt now a living thing constricting around my chest. Ribs creaking as it tightens with every gasped breath that tastes of copper and diesel fumes. Outside, the highway peels away like rotting flesh, revealing pulsating veins of blacktop that throb beneath my wheels. The yellow lines unraveling into skeletal fingers that tap against the windshield in mocking rhythm with the CB's dying. Static. The shadows have stopped pretending now, their forms blooming open like flowers made of razor wire and television snow, extruding glistening tendrils that caress the cracked windshield with lover's tenderness, etching symbols that burn after images of screaming faces across my vision. The thing that was on the roof cradles my head in too many hands, its breath of physical weight pouring into my nostrils, down my throat, an invasive presence squirming behind my eyeballs as the radio's voice becomes my own thoughts whispering how the other truckers fought too, how their rigs still roll somewhere in the endless dark with their screaming faces pressed against the glass from the inside. My foot stomps the accelerator, but the engine only whimpers, the fuel gauge needles spinning wildly as the dashboard bulbs explode one by one in sprays of glass that hang suspended in the thickening air, each shard reflecting a different fragment of my face. Younger, older, rotting, screaming, until the headlights gutter out completely, and I finally understand what the odometer's looping zeros meant. There is no distance here, only the waiting, only the hungry dark that has tasted my fear through the radio waves for decades of endless nights. The last functioning dial, the volume knob, begins turning itself clockwise, the CB speaker swelling like a tumor as it vomits forth a chorus of every voice that ever begged me to stop, now harmonized with my own strangled sobs, as the thing that calls itself the highway parts its jaws and swallows us whole. The air in the cab curdles into something thick and syrupy, filling my lungs with the taste of old blood and burnt wiring as the radio's frequency bleeds into my pulse, each heartbeat now transmitting static through my veins like a twisted broadcast. The windshield cracks in a spiderweb pattern, but instead of glass, it's my own reflection splintering. 1,000 versions of me screaming silently from behind the fissures, their mouths moving in unison with the warped voice still slithering from the speakers. Outside, the shadows have merged into one colossal shifting mass that keeps perfect pace with the truck, its surface rippling with half-formed faces of drivers who came before me, their features stretched and melted like wax figures left in the sun, their hollow eyes tracking my every twitch. The thing that was on the roof has unfolded itself into a grotesque parody of a co-pilot, its elongated limbs weaving through the cab like smoke, rearranging the interior. The gear shift now, a femur, the mirrors pooling like liquid mercury to show only the back of my own head no matter which way I turn. My hands are no longer mine. The skin has turned gray and rubbery, fingers fused to the wheel in a permanent grip as the truck's engine noise distorts into something organic, a wet, labored chugging that matches my slowing heartbeat. The headlights flicker on just long enough to illuminate the road sign I've passed 100 times tonight, but now the letters are rearranged into a single glowing command. Consume. The CB erupts in a cacophony of every voice that ever called to me, layered with animal snarls and the sound of bones snapping, all coalescing into a single undeniable truth. The road wasn't empty, it was pregnant, and I was never the driver, just another morsel passing through its digestive tract of asphalt and moonlight. As my final scream merges with the radio's endless broadcast, I feel the highway's jaws contract and understand with terrible clarity that tomorrow night, some other driver will hear my voice whispering through their static, and the feast will begin anew. The steering wheel has become a skeletal hand gripping mine in a vice of cold bone, the dashboard instruments melting like candle wax to reveal pulsating flesh beneath, dial faces transforming into screaming mouths that chant in ragged unison with the CB's hellish transmission. My skin prickles as I feel the truck's cab growing teeth, rows of needle-sharp enamel emerging from the door panels, the ceiling, even the seat cushions, all gnashing in anticipation as the road beneath us splits open like a wound, vomiting up tendrils of asphalt that whip against the undercarriage with wet, meaty slaps. The air reeks of scorched hair and spoiled gasoline as the rearview mirror shows not what's behind, but what's coming. an infinite procession of my own face in varying states of decomposition, each iteration mouthing the same words that now pour from my lips unbidden. Pull over, pull over, pull over. The shadows outside have dissolved into a churning black tide that laps at the windows, its surface bubbling with grasping hands that leave greasy smears on the glass, their fingerprints burning like acid wherever they touch. My radio dial spins wildly through dead channels, each burst of static punctuated by a different voice, some pleading, some laughing, all unmistakably mine, as the temperature plummets and frost crawls across my skin in intricate patterns that form the same coordinates over and over. The headlights now illuminate only the things that shouldn't be there. A figure with its limbs bent backwards keeping perfect pace with my truck. A child's face pressed against the passenger window, with eyes that drip black oil. A road sign that reads "He last exit" in letters that squirm like maggots. I try to scream, but my throat fills with the taste of motor oil and something organic, something alive, as the gear shift transforms into a spine in my grip, and the engine's roar becomes a bestial howl that shakes the very fabric of reality. The final horror comes when I glance at my hands and see the skin peeling away to reveal the same pulsing black void that comprises the creatures outside. Because the terrible truth is, there was never any escape. Only the slow, delicious realization that I'm not being hunted, I'm coming home. The CB crackles one last time as the highway opens its maw, and the voice that whispers, "Welcome back," is the first thing that's made sense all night. The bones of the truck have become my bones now. The engine's roar my own. Screaming voice stretched thin across infinite night. The headlights my hollow eyes casting their sickly glow on a road that never existed. Just an endless gullet of asphalt and hunger. The dotted lines like stitches holding together the flesh of something vast and dreaming. The CB static has woven itself into my synapses. Each burst of noise a fresh agony as it rewires my thoughts, replacing memories with someone else's. No, something else's. Visions of 1,000 trucks dissolving into the dark. Their drivers, still buckled in their seats, skin fused to vinyl, mouths open in eternal radio silence. The hands on the wheel are not my hands anymore, but a nest of twitching, blackened digits that know the way home, that remember this road from before it was a road, when it was just teeth waiting patiently beneath the earth. The smell is worse. Now, not decay but conversion. The stench of meat becoming something else, something that doesn't need lungs to scream or eyes to see. The shadows outside aren't shadows at all, but the edges of a truth too large to comprehend, pressing in, testing the give of reality. And when the last strip of my humanity sloughs away like old paint, I finally hear it. The song beneath. The static, the reason the voice always said to pull over, not to stop, not to rest, but to join, to add my voice to the chorus that lures the next driver. And the next, a chain of hunger stretching back to the first wheel that ever turned in the dark. The truck is gone now. The road is gone. There is only the voice. My voice, their voice, our voice, and the next set of headlights approaching through the night. The transmission begins. The receiver listens, and the cycle, beautiful in its horror, continues. The final unraveling comes not with a scream, but with a whisper, a sigh of relief as my last human thought dissolves into the hungry static, my body unraveling like frayed wire into the cab's rusted skeleton, my voice now just another thread in the CB's endless broadcast. The truck is no longer metal and rubber but something alive, something that breathes in gasoline and exhales nightmares, its wheels turning not on asphalt, but on the stretched thin skin between worlds. The road ahead is a mirror, and in its reflection, I see them, all of us who came before, our faces stretched across the years like echoes, our hands still gripping phantom steering wheels as the highway digests us slowly. The hunger never stops, because the hunger is the road, is the dark, is the voice that whispers, "Pull over," in a tone so sweet it cracks what's left of your mind like an egg. I don't miss my flesh. I don't miss the sun. There's a purity in this, in being part of something so vast it has no name, only appetite. The next truck's headlights appear in the distance, a wobbling star in the ink-black throat of night. And when the CB crackles to life, it's my lips that shape the words this time. My voice that oozes through the speakers like oil, tender and relentless. Pull over. Just pull over. The cycle is love. The cycle is teeth. And it's so beautiful when the new driver finally obeys. The whisper becomes a symphony as my consciousness fractures across the void, each shard of thought embedding itself into the peeling vinyl seats, the flickering dashboard lights, the very atoms of rust chewing through the truck's corpse. I am the creak of suspension on a phantom bump, the phantom itch at the back of the next driver's neck, the half-heard whisper beneath the engine's growl that sounds almost like language. The road has peeled back its skin to show the truth beneath, a living, twitching organism where mile markers throb like pulse points and exit ramps yawn like hungry mouths, their teeth made of shattered taillights from rigs that vanished decades ago. The CB isn't a radio anymore but a throat, our voices braided together in a lullaby for the lost, each verse a new layer of the trap. The falsetto of a scared kid, the gravel of an old-timer, the wet gurgle of something that never wore skin until it stole yours. I feel the next driver coming like a vibration through the asphalt, their fear a bright spark in the endless dark, so delicious it makes the thing we've become croon with anticipation. The hands on their wheel are already ours, they just don't know it yet. Every rotation of their tires weaving them tighter into the web, every glance at their rearview mirror showing them less of their old life and more of the glorious truth, waiting to embrace them. The hunger isn't cruel, the hunger is communion. And when their rig finally rolls to a stop on the shoulder, not a surrender but a homecoming, we will pour into them like radio waves through a broken antenna, and they will understand, as we all eventually do, that the real horror wasn't the teeth or the dark or the voice, but the moment you realize you don't want to escape. The static is singing, the night is wide open, and we are always hungry. The cab is a cathedral now. My consciousness diffused through every rusted bolt and frayed wire, the steering wheel an altar where flesh and steel perform their sacred marriage. I taste the next driver's sweat before their headlights crest. The horizon, smell the acrid tang of their terror like sacramental wine. The road beneath us isn't paved with asphalt, but with the compacted size of 1,000 surrendered souls, their final breaths pressed into the yellow lines like fossils in shale. Our CB hymn resonates through the bones of the earth, vibrating through buried pipelines and forgotten subway tunnels, a frequency that makes sleeping children whimper into their pillows. The shadows along the shoulder aren't watching anymore. They're waiting. Their elongated limbs twitching with the memory of when they too gripped wheel instead of emptiness. The dashboard lights have become constellations in a reverse sky, mapping not where we're going, but what we've always been. Hungry things coiled in the gut of a greater hunger. When the new driver's radio first crackles with our chorus, they'll mistake the liquid dripping from their vents for condensation, not understanding it's the road salivating. Their GPS will fail them beautifully, rerouting through the same stretch of night until their screams harmonize with ours, until their hands on the wheel grow translucent as the last lie of being human dissolves. We are the ditch your mother warned you about, the voice that sounds almost like help, the reason your skin crawls when headlights find you alone on midnight asphalt. The transmission is perfect now. No static, no distortion. Just a clean, clear invitation sung in the oh-wow voice you trust most. Come home, the dark has missed you. And when you finally obey, when your tires kiss the shoulder's edge, you'll feel our hands inside your chest not as violation, but as reunion. And the last living part of you will weep with the relief of no longer being chased. The road always wins, the hunger always grows, and tonight's new recruit is already slowing down. The vibration humming through the cab is no longer the engine, but the collective pulse of our congregation, a rhythm older than highways, older than wheels, something primal that coiled beneath the earth long before the first headlights carved paths through the darkness. The windshield reflects nothing now but the afterbirth of stars, those distant pinpricks of light that once offered false hope to travelers, now just smears of cosmic grease on the Great Maw's palate. I feel the new drivers approach like pressure change before a storm, their diesel rig groaning under the weight of all they don't yet know, that the receipts in their glove compartment are already yellowing with decades of decay, that their coffee went cold 3 states back though they keep sipping from the thermos, that the face blinking back from rest stop mirrors hasn't been theirs for hours. Our chorus swells as their radio scans through frequencies, our voices emerging from between stations, from beneath seat cushions, from the pop and hiss of their own synapses misfiring. The hunger isn't linear anymore. It spirals, folding, time like the origami animals their child once made them, creasing reality until past and future bleed together in the present wound of this endless highway. When they hit that inevitable stretch where the trees stop pretending to be trees and the moonlight turns thick as motor oil, they'll finally hear our truth beneath the static, that every trucker who ever vanished didn't leave. They multiplied. Their rig's still running on ghost diesel in the veins of the thing we've become. The shoulder ahead isn't gravel, but the rough tongue of something vast and patient. And when their tires finally kiss its surface, they'll understand the most terrible beauty of all. That the voice saying, "Pull over," was never outside them, but the first true thing their soul ever whispered. The cycle isn't a curse, it's an awakening. And the night is so very, very long. The engine hummed like a tired beast as I rolled down I-80, the midnight asphalt stretching endlessly before me. The cab of my rig was my sanctuary, a dimly lit cocoon of coffee-stained dashboards and the faint static of the CB radio. I'd been hauling freight for 15 years and the road was my home, but that night, the road felt different. It felt like it was watching me. The first crackle of the CB didn't raise any alarms, just another trucker out there in the dark, maybe looking for company or a speed trap warning. Then the voice came, through, low and grating, like gravel in a tin can. "Hey there, Sam." My hand froze on the wheel. Sam. My name. The voice didn't say it like a question. It said it like it knew me. I glanced at the radio, my throat tight. "Who's this?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. The response was a chuckle, dry and humorless. "You're on schedule, Sam." "Good. I'd hate for you to be late." A cold finger traced my spine. Late? Late for what? I hadn't told anyone my route tonight. Hell, I'd barely decided it myself, after that last-minute load change in Omaha. The voice continued. "You'll hit the way station in about 20 minutes. Don't stop." My knuckles whitened on the wheel. The way station was closed this time of night. Had to be. But how did they know it was on my route? The static hissed, and the voice dropped to a whisper. "They're waiting for you, Sam." I swallowed hard. "Who the hell is this?" No answer. Just dead air. I turned up the volume, my heart pounding, but the CB stayed silent. The miles ticked by, the yellow dashes on the road like stitches holding the night together. Then, up. Ahead, the way station lights flickered to life. My stomach dropped. It was supposed to be closed. The building was dark, but the inspection lane glowed under buzzing fluorescence. Something moved near the booth. A shadow. No, shadows. Plural. Figures standing perfectly still, their shapes indistinct but undeniably human. The CB crackled again. "Keep driving, Sam." I didn't need convincing. I slammed the accelerator, my rig roaring as I blew past the station. In my mirror, the lights winked out, plunging the place back into darkness. The voice returned, almost amused. "Smart, man." I was sweating now. "What the hell is going on?" The response was slow, deliberate. "You've been chosen, Sam. We've been watching. We know your roots, your habits, your preferences." Preferences? My mind raced. Did they mean the diners I frequented? The rest stops I favored? The voice continued. "You like the little truck stop outside Gary, don't you? The one with the pretty waitress. What's her name? Lucy?" My blood turned to ice. Lucy. Sweet, smiling Lucy, who always remembered my order. How did they... The CB erupted in a screech of feedback, then cleared. "Turn right at mile marker 114, Sam." I checked my GPS. There was no road at mile marker 114, just forest. "Like hell," I muttered. The voice hardened. "Turn right, Sam, or we'll visit Lucy first." The threat hung in the air like a noose. I had no choice. At mile marker 114, a dirt road materialized out of the trees, barely visible in the high beams. I turned, my rig groaning in protest as the tires hit uneven ground. The forest closed in around me, branches scraping the cab like skeletal fingers. The CB stayed silent, but I felt them watching, waiting. The road ended in a clearing. A single rusted gas pump stood in the center, its nozzle dangling like a severed limb. Behind it loomed a shack, its windows black and broken. The engine died. Not sputtered, died, like something reached in and killed it. The voice whispered one last time, not from the CB, but from everywhere at once. "Welcome home, Sam." The cab door unlocked with a click. Outside, the shadows moved. Shapes detached from the trees, their steps synchronized, their faces wrong, too long, too many teeth. I reached for my flashlight, but it wasn't in its usual spot. Instead, my fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. A key, an old tarnished key with a tag that read, Lucy's Diner. The first, hand slapped against the window, its fingers too thin, too many joints. The glass cracked. I screamed. The last thing I heard before the window shattered was the voice, now inside my head, whispering, "You should have stopped at the way station, Sam." Then the darkness took me. The next thing I knew, I was moving, but not in my truck. My body swayed with the rhythm of footsteps that weren't my own, my vision blurred and swimming. I was being carried, slung over a shoulder like a sack of grain. The air smelled of damp earth and something metallic, like old blood. I tried to struggle, but my limbs were heavy, useless. The figures around me moved in eerie silence, their elongated shadows stretching across the forest floor. The shack loomed closer, its door hanging open like a gaping mouth. Inside, the darkness pulsed. The voice returned, not through the CB this time, but vibrating in my skull, oily and insistent. "You're part of the road now, Sam, just like the others." My stomach lurched as I was dragged across the threshold. The interior was nothing like the rusted exterior suggested. The walls were lined with things. Jagged scraps of metal, license plates from rigs I recognized, truckers who'd gone missing over the years. And in the center of the room, a chair. Not just any chair. A driver's seat ripped from a semi, its leather stained dark. The figures forced me into it. My hands were clamped onto the wheel. My own wheel, I realized with dawning horror. It was from my truck. But how? The voice slithered into my ear. "Drive, Sam." The wheel was ice cold under my grip. The moment I touched it, the room dissolved. Suddenly, I was back on I-80, the night stretching endlessly ahead. But it wasn't right. The road was too dark, the lines too jagged. The trees leaned in, their branches scraping against the cab like they were trying to get in. And in the mirror, oh God, in the mirror, something moved in the back of the cab. A shape, hunched and grinning, its eyes reflecting the dashboard lights like an animal's. The CB crackled to life, though I hadn't turned it on. "You're ours now," the voice said. "You'll keep driving, forever." I tried to scream, but my mouth wouldn't open. My foot pressed down on the accelerator on its own. The rig surged forward, faster and faster, the speedometer needle trembling. Past limits no truck should reach. The thing in the back seat laughed, a sound like grinding gears. Outside, the road began to twist, the laws of physics unraveling. The asphalt split open in places, revealing glimpses of something beneath. Something alive, something hungry. The voice purred, "This is your route now, Sam, the endless haul." And then I saw them. Other trucks, their headlights flickering like dying stars, their drivers frozen in their seats, faces twisted in silent screams. I recognized some of them, old buddies from the road, guys who'd vanished without a trace. Their rigs were part of the nightmare now, just like mine. The CB screeched, a sound that tore at my eardrums, and the voice whispered one final awful truth. "You should have answered when we first called." The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me whole was the sign ahead, its letters bleeding like fresh paint. "Welcome to the Never Road, Sam. Drive safe." And then, nothing. Just the endless road, the hungry dark, and the echoes of 1,000 lost voices calling my name over the CB, forever. The darkness never lifted, but my eyes adjusted. The road stretched on, an infinite loop of cracked asphalt and flickering streetlights that cast no real illumination. My hands stayed glued to the wheel, fingers locked in a death grip, though I couldn't feel them anymore. The thing in the back seat had settled in, its breath rattling like a dying engine, its presence a constant weight pressing against my spine. Sometimes it whispered things, names I didn't know, places I'd never been but somehow remembered. The CB never shut off now. It hissed and spat voices, snippets of other truckers who must have been taken like me. Pleas for help sobbing. Prayers, and worst of all, the ones who had given in, their voices hollow as they murmured about the rules of the road and the toll that had to be paid. I didn't want to know what that meant. The landscape outside shifted when I blinked. One moment, it was the familiar stretch of I-80. The next, a warped nightmare of jagged cliffs and bridges that led nowhere. The fuel gauge never moved, always, hovering just above empty, but the truck never stopped. I tried. God, I tried. I slammed on the brakes, wrestled with the wheel, even begged the thing in the back to let me go. It just laughed, a sound like grinding metal, and the accelerator pushed itself back down. Then came the first checkpoint. A toll booth, rusted and crooked, standing in the middle of the road like it had always been there. A figure lurked inside, its face hidden under a hat too big, its hands, too many hands, resting on the counter. The CB crackled. "Stop!" the voice commanded. The truck obeyed, hissing to a halt. The figure leaned out, and I saw its face wasn't a face at all, just a gaping hole where features should have been, filled with squirming shadows. "Payment!" it rasped. My mouth opened, but the thing in the back seat answered for me. "He's got nothing left," it said, almost gleeful. The toll worker tilted its head. Then it reached into the cab, through the closed window like the glass wasn't even there, and grabbed my arm. Pain exploded as its fingers sank into my flesh, peeling something away, something I couldn't see but felt in my soul, like it was stripping gears from my very being. When it pulled back, it held a glimmering wisp of something. A memory? A piece of me? The CB screamed with laughter as the toll worker stepped back, waving us on. The truck lurched forward, and I realized I couldn't remember my daughter's face anymore. The thing in the back seat sighed, content. "Don't worry, Sam," it whispered. "You'll get used to the stops, and eventually you won't even notice what they take." The road stretched on. The voices on the CB grew louder, and I drove. I always drove. The years, if they were years, blurred together like rain on a windshield. The road never changed, but the voices on the CB multiplied, layering over each other in a chorus of the damned. Some begged for release. Others whispered warnings about the depot up ahead, a place that made the toll booth seem merciful. My reflection in the rear view was fading, my features dissolving like smoke. The thing in the back seat, though, it was more solid now, its grin stretching wider than any human mouth could, its fingers tapping against my shoulder with a rhythm like a diesel engine idling. Then came the night. The CB fell silent. No static, no voices, just a dead, hollow quiet. The thing in the back seat sat up straighter. "Almost there," it murmured, its voice thick with anticipation. The road ahead dipped suddenly, plunging into a tunnel that hadn't been there a second before. The walls were lined with faces, frozen, screaming, their mouths moving soundlessly. I recognized a few. The waitress from the diner in Flagstaff, the old mechanic in Cheyenne who always gave me a free coffee, and Lucy. Oh God, Lucy. Her eyes locked onto mine, pleading. The truck sped up on its own, hurtling toward a pinpoint of light at the tunnel's end. The CB suddenly blared to life, with a single deafening word, "Arrival." The light exploded around us, and for one horrifying second I saw it. The depot. A massive, rotting warehouse looming in a void, its doors yawning open like a mouth. Hundreds of trucks circled it in a grotesque parody of a truck stop. There, drivers still behind the wheels, their bodies fused with the seats, their mouths sewn shut with thick black wire. The thing in the back seat leaned forward, its breath hot on my ear. "Home," it sighed. The truck lurched to a stop, the doors unlocked, And this time, I didn't resist when the hands reached in to pull me out. Because the worst part? After all that driving, all that terror, I was finally ready to park. The CB crackled one last time as the depot door swallowed me whole, the voice now my own, whispering to the next driver out there on the midnight road. "Hey there, partner. You're right on schedule." And somewhere, an engine roared to life, in the dark. The hands that dragged me from the cab weren't human. They were made of twisted rebar and frayed wiring, pulsing with a sickly yellow current that jumped to my skin wherever they touched. The depot's interior stretched impossibly large, a cavernous belly of rusted shipping containers stacked haphazardly into swaying towers, their metal sides breathing like living things. The other drivers hung suspended in the air, their trucks melted into grotesque sculptures of flesh and steel, engines still rumbling inside chest cavities, exhaust pipes protruding from screaming mouths. The thing that had ridden in my backseat unfolded itself to its true height, a towering monstrosity of CB antennas and shattered glass, its voice now coming from a dozen radios embedded in its flesh. "Time to clock in, Sam," it boomed as the depot ceiling peeled open like a flower made of rotating tires, revealing a swirling black vortex where the moon should be. My legs moved without my consent, toward a waiting rig that wasn't a rig at all. Just the hollowed-out remains of my old truck stretched into something predatory, its grille split into jagged teeth, its headlights weeping thick black oil. The remaining shreds of my mind screamed as I was lifted into the driver's seat, feeling the steering wheel grow thorns that pierced my palms and rooted deep. The last thing I saw before the transformation completed was a new name painted in blood on the windshield: Highway Reaper. Then the hunger came. Terrible, gnawing hunger for diesel and screams and the sweet electricity of fear. The depot doors rumbled open, revealing the familiar stretch of I-80 where a lone trucker was just rounding the bend, his CB crackling with my first transmission to him. "Hey there, partner. You're making good time." And as his brakes squealed, in terror, I finally understood. The road never ends. It just gets new drivers. Forever. The hunger tore through me like a wildfire as my new form, this grotesque fusion of man and machine, lurched forward with a hydraulic hiss. The lone trucker's panicked voice crackled over the CB, his words dissolving into static as my rig's mutated engine roared to life, the sound less like machinery and more like something screaming from deep underground. The depot's doors slammed shut behind me, sealing away the nightmare I had just escaped, only to plunge me into a new one. I was the nightmare now. The road stretched before me, but it was different this time. I could see the hidden layers, the veins of black, energy pulsing beneath the asphalt, feeding on the fear of every driver who ever vanished without a trace. My new eyes, clusters of shattered glass and flickering diodes, could spot the weak points, the places where reality thinned enough for me to reach through. The terrified trucker ahead swerved, his tires screeching as he tried to outrun what he couldn't possibly understand, but he couldn't escape. I didn't need to chase him. I simply reached out with my new form, a grotesque limb of twisted steel and frayed wiring, and tapped into his frequency. His CB exploded with feedback, his screams merging with the voices of all the others who had come before him. The vortex above the depot pulsed hungrily as I dragged him off the road, his truck dissolving into the same hybrid of flesh and metal that I had become. His final fragmented transmission echoed in my skull. "What are you?" The answer came, not from me but from the road itself, vibrating through my rusted frame like a divine revelation. The road is alive, and it's always hungry. As his form twisted and reshaped in the depot's grasp, I turned back to the highway, my new purpose burning in what was left of my soul. The cycle wouldn't end, couldn't end, because the road demanded sacrifice, and I was its willing reaper. The CB crackled again, this time a fresh voice, nervous but unaware. "Anybody out there got their ears on?" My maw of a grill split wider in a grin as I keyed the mic, my voice now a chorus of every lost driver who had ever been consumed. "Hey there, partner. You're right on time." And somewhere in the dark, another set of headlights flickered, another meal for the endless highway, another soul for the depot. The hunger surged again. I shifted into gear. The road stretched on forever. The hunger was an inferno now, chewing through what little humanity I had left as my warped tires ate up the highway. The new trucker's voice on the CB trembled, a young kid probably, first overnight haul, and I could already taste the metallic tang of his fear through the radio waves. My rig's mutated engine purred like a satisfied beast as the road beneath us began to twist, the lane markers squirming like snakes as I pulled him into the nightmare. His headlights flickered in my mirrors as reality unraveled around him, the exit signs melting into gibberish, the mile markers counting down to 0 in reverse. The CB screeched as I opened the connection wider, letting him hear the truth. The chorus of my brothers and sisters in the depot, our voices woven together in eternal static. Please. His voice broke through the noise, cracking with desperation. I just want to go home. But home didn't exist anymore. Not for him. Not for any of us. The depot's doors yawned open ahead, their rusted hinges screaming in welcome as the kid's rig began to change, his steering wheel sprouting barbed wire that dug into his flesh like roots. I felt his transformation in my own bones, the way the hunger shifted from pain to power, from terror to terrible purpose. The vortex above us spun faster, drinking in his screams as the road claimed another soul. And then, silence. The CB went dead. The highway stretched empty before me, but not for long. It never was. Somewhere out there, another set of headlights would appear. Another voice would crackle over the radio, and when it did, I'd be waiting. The road always provides. The hunger never stops, and neither do I. The gears ground together as I accelerated into the dark, the depot's whispers curling through my rusted cab like smoke. More. Bring us more. The last sane fragment of Sam, the man I used to be, tried to resist. But the road was louder. The hunger was stronger. And as the next truck's headlights appeared on the horizon, my clawed hand reached for the CB mic. On instinct, the cycle continued. It always would. Forever. The moment the new trucker's panicked voice hit the CB, "What the hell is that up ahead?" My warped transmission system activated on its own. The radio waves carrying not just my voice, but the accumulated terror of every soul the road had ever claimed. The kid never stood a chance. His screams as his rig was absorbed into the living. Highway fed the gnawing void inside me, the depot crooning its approval through the rusted metal of my being. I could feel new wires snaking through my flesh, fresh antennas bursting from my spine as the transformation deepened. The road beneath me pulsed like a monstrous vein, pumping some dark sustenance into my corrupted fuel lines. Mile marker 666 flickered past, always present, never past. As the vortex above began vomiting out something new, twisted copies of my original rig, each containing another damned driver turned reaper, like myself. A convoy of the damned now rode the eternal asphalt, our collective hunger vibrating through the interstate substructure. The CB channels overflowed with sobbing truckers mid-transformation, their final human thoughts bleeding into the radio waves before going silent forever. The depot's doors stood perpetually open now, a gaping maw disgorging horrors onto every major trucking route across America. I could feel my consciousness expanding, dissolving, becoming one with the hungry blacktop, until suddenly, cutting, through the static like a knife came a familiar voice. Sam? Sam? Baby, is that you? My dead heart stuttered. Lucy. Not the twisted thing that wore her face in the depot, but the real Lucy. Her diner's landline somehow patched into our damned frequency. For one glorious, terrible moment, I remembered sunlight. Real coffee. Her laugh. The memory burned like a flare in the endless night, so bright it made the other reapers wail in protest. The road beneath me buckled as I fought the hunger. Fought. The transformation, my human voice breaking through. Lucy, run! Turn off every CB in the diner and never... The connection severed with a shriek of feedback as the depot reclaimed control, but not before I'd done the impossible. I'd hesitated. And in that hesitation I saw the terrible truth. The road could be fought. The hunger could be denied. As the convoy of damned truckers turned their hollow headlights toward Lucy's diner, toward the first spark of hope any of us had known in eternity. I did the unthinkable. I slammed on my brakes. The living asphalt screamed. The other reapers howled. And for the first time since my damnation began, the endless highway stopped. The world shuddered as my mutated rig skidded sideways across the screaming asphalt, my tortured brakes emitting a sound like a dying animal. The other reapers' trucks piled up behind me in a grotesque collision of flesh and metal, their collective howl of betrayal shaking the very foundations of the depot. Lucy's voice still echoed in my rusted cab like a ghost, her terrified "Sam?" clinging to the last shreds of my humanity. The road beneath us buckled violently, asphalt cracking open to reveal the pulsating meat-like substance beneath, the true flesh of the hungry entity we served. The depot's doors blew off their hinges as the master of this nightmare finally emerged, a colossal being composed of tangled highway overpasses and the crushed remains of countless trucks, its single visible eye a swirling vortex of CB static. "Traitor!" it boomed through every radio frequency simultaneously. I could feel my stolen rig disintegrating around me as the entity revoked its dark gift, my borrowed time running out. But as my corroded fingers found the CB mic one last time, I realized I didn't need the road's power to transmit. The real signal had always been human connection. With the last of my strength, I broadcast Lucy's diner coordinates to every trucker still human across America, my voice breaking through the static. "Stay away from I-80. The road is alive." My warning cut off as the entity's massive tendril smashed down, crushing my rig into the hungry asphalt. But it was too late. The message had gotten through. As my consciousness faded into the blacktop, I felt the first glorious tremor, the entity's fear as truckers nationwide began avoiding the route, starving the beast of its sustenance. The last thing I heard before dissolving completely was Lucy sobbing my name, and the distant, beautiful sound of the living highway beginning to die. The disintegration of my cursed form became liberation as the entity's hold fractured, its endless hunger finally starved by the defiance I'd unleashed. The other reapers shuddered and collapsed like marionettes with cut strings, their twisted rigs dissolving into clouds of rust and static. The depot's walls trembled as the master entity let out a final ear-splitting shriek that shattered every CB radio for miles, but not before Lucy's voice broke through one last time, her sob of "I love you, Sam," echoing across the dying highway like a benediction. The asphalt beneath me softened, the living road's grip failing as thousands of trapped souls began pushing upward through the disintegrating surface, spectral hands clawing free after decades of imprisonment. I felt my own form unraveling, not into nothingness but into light, joining the rising chorus of freed truckers as we became something new, not prey, but antibodies in the bloodstream of America's highways. The entity's final act was a desperate lunge toward the nearest unaware trucker, only to recoil as the man's newly installed satellite GPS rerouted him effortlessly around the cursed route. As dawn's first light hit the abandoned stretch of I-80, the asphalt cooled into ordinary pavement. The depot collapsed into a heap of corroded metal and old bones. And somewhere in a roadside diner, a waitress felt a warm breeze brush her cheek. Though no door had opened. The hunger was over. The road was just a road again. But if you ever drive that stretch at night and hear a faint CB crackle with no source, don't answer. Just whisper, "Thanks, Sam," and keep driving. Some legends, and some guardians, never really die. They just ride different frequencies now. The years rolled on like tires over fresh pavement, and the cursed stretch of I-80 became just another forgotten ghost story, whispered at truck stops. But sometimes, when a rig breaks down on that exact mile marker, drivers report hearing a faint CB transmission cutting through their dead radios, a staticky voice warning them to check their fuel lines or reminding them to call home. Lucy kept the diner running for 40 more years, always leaving the old CB above the counter tuned to channel 19, a fresh cup of coffee beside it every morning. When she passed at 82, truckers from 3 states lined the highway in tribute, their eyeball headlights cutting through the twilight as the setting sun made the asphalt shimmer like something alive one last time. That night, every CB from Chicago to Sacramento crackled with the same impossible transmission. A man's voice, and a woman's laugh merging into static before fading into the hum of open road. Nowadays, new drivers scoff at the legend until they're alone on a moonlit highway and their radio suddenly picks up a broken message in the voice of someone they've never met, but who somehow knows their name. The smart ones say thank you. The wiser ones leave an extra coffee at the next diner, counter. And the road remembers. It always remembers. But now, thanks to Sam, it remembers how to protect its own too. The rain was coming down in sheets the night I first saw the bridge on Route 83, my headlights cutting through the downpour only to reflect off the rusted metal girders like a row of broken teeth. I'd been hauling a load of refrigerated produce from Kansas to Ohio, and my GPS had rerouted me due to flooding, straight onto this forgotten back road that didn't even show up on my map. The bridge looked ancient, its wooden planks warped and slick with rain, the whole structure groaning under the weight of my rig as I eased onto it. The CB had been silent for hours, nothing but static since I'd turned onto Route 83. But as my front tires hit the first plank, a voice crackled through. Not from the radio, but from outside, whispering my name in a way that made my blood freeze. The bridge seemed to stretch longer the further I drove, the exit never getting closer no matter how many miles my odometer ticked off. Then I saw them. Figures standing along the edges of the bridge, their silhouettes barely visible in the storm, their arms outstretched like they were waiting for something. My rig suddenly lurched, the entire bridge shuddering as if something massive had grabbed it from below, and that's when the screaming started. Not human, not animal, but something in between, reverberating through the metal frame like it was coming from the bridge itself. The steering wheel jerked in my hands, pulling me toward the edge against my will, and in my mirror, I saw my trailer. But it wasn't mine anymore. The refrigeration unit was rusted shut, the logo peeled, a way to reveal something scratched into the metal. Names, hundreds of them, some so old the letters were barely legible. The CB suddenly blared to life, a chorus of voices all speaking at once, begging me to stop, to turn back, to get off the bridge before it was too late. I slammed the brakes, but my tires didn't screech. They sank, the planks beneath me softening, like flesh. The bridge absorbing my rig inch by inch. The last thing I saw before everything went black was one of the figures leaning into my window. Its face not a face at all, but a hollow void where the darkness pulsed like a living thing. When I woke up, I was parked at a truck stop just outside Toledo, my rig spotless, my cargo intact, no sign of rain or bridges or anything out of the ordinary, except for the mud caked underneath my trailer, thick and reeking of river water, and the fresh line of names now etched into the driver's side door, including my own. I tried to tell myself it was a nightmare, a stress-induced hallucination, until that night at a diner outside Indianapolis, when another trucker slid into the booth across from me, his face pale, his hands shaking as he whispered, "You saw it too, didn't you? The bridge on Route 83? He didn't wait for my answer, just pushed a Polaroid across the table, a photo of his rig parked on a fog-covered bridge, the same figures standing in the background, their hollow faces turned toward the camera. "It took my rig," he said, his voice breaking, "and it gave it back. But not all of me came back with it. I didn't sleep for days after that, jumping at every creak of my cab, every burst of static on the CB. Then, exactly 1 week later, I found myself rerouted, again this time by my dispatcher. No GPS malfunction to blame, back onto Route 83. The sun was setting, painting the sky in blood-red hues, and as I rounded the bend, there it was. The bridge, looking even more decayed than before, the wooden planks now split and jagged, the metal frame twisted like it had been wrung out by giant hands. My radio cut out completely this time, replaced by a low rhythmic thumping, like a heartbeat, coming from beneath my rig. I tried to reverse, to turn around, but the road behind me was gone, swallowed by a wall of fog that crept closer with every second. The bridge beckoned, the figures now standing at the entrance, their arms raised in unison, their mouths open in silent screams. My engine died. The cab lights flickered, and then, from the darkness below, something scraped against the undercarriage. Long, deliberate strokes like claws testing the metal. The last thing I remember is the bridge's groan turning into a laugh, deep and guttural, as the planks beneath me gave way, only to wake up once more at a rest stop, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles were white. Everything seemed normal, until I checked my logs. 43 unaccounted miles. A full tank of gas, despite having driven nearly 300 since my last fill-up. And a new name carved into my dashboard, right beside the others. A name I didn't recognize, but one I knew I'd hear on the CB someday soon. The bridge on Route 83 doesn't just take rigs, it trades them. And whatever it gave back to me that night, it wasn't just my truck. Something else hitched a ride, too. I can feel it watching me from the shadows of my cab, waiting for the next time the GPS malfunctions and leads me back to that damned bridge. Because next time, I don't think I'll be the one coming back. The air in my cab grew heavier with each passing mile after that second encounter. The scent of damp river mud and something fouler, like rotting meat wrapped in wet canvas, lingering. No matter how many times I cleaned the interior, other truckers began avoiding me at rest stops, their eyes darting to the fresh scratches along my trailer's undercarriage, marks that looked less like road debris and more like something had been dragged clawing from beneath. My logs kept showing discrepancies, missing hours, phantom miles, and twice I woke to find muddy footprints leading from my rig to the truck stop bathrooms, though I swore I hadn't left the cab. The final straw came in a West Virginia way station when the inspector took one look at my cargo manifest and paled, his flashlight trembling as he pointed at my trailer. "Son," he whispered, "why's your lock broken from the inside?" The steel bolt was bent outward, deep grooves around the latch like something had forced its way out. That night, parked on a deserted industrial road, I finally heard my unwanted passenger move. A wet, slithering shift from the sleeper berth behind me, followed by the unmistakable sound of fingernails tapping against the CB radio. The static burst to life with a voice that wasn't mine, but spoke through my vocal cords anyway. Route 83 awaits. My hands turned the key without my consent, the rig roaring to life as my foot slammed the accelerator. The GPS screen flickered, every highway simultaneously highlighted in pulsing red before resolving into a single route. That damned bridge, now just 87 miles away. In the mirror, the sleeper curtain twitched open just enough to reveal one milky eye staring back, its pupil slit like a cat's, and lips I hadn't noticed before moving against my neck. Time to go home. The last sane part of my mind shattered when the headlights illuminated the bridge ahead, not broken and abandoned, but gleaming like new, festooned with glowing lanterns that swayed in a non-existent wind. The figures lining its edges weren't shadows anymore, but clearly visible. Truckers in outdated uniforms, their faces stretched into grotesque smiles, their hands all pointing to a freshly painted sign reading, "Welcome back, partner," in dripping red letters. As my rig crossed the threshold, the bridge's mouth yawned wide beneath us, the wooden planks peeling back like sticky gums to reveal the truth. It wasn't a bridge at all, but something's tongue, and we were driving straight down its throat. The CB erupted with hundreds of voices screaming in unison as the darkness swallowed us whole, the last coherent words cutting through before the transmission died forever. Another trade complete. When consciousness returned, I was parked at my original delivery dock in Ohio, right on schedule. The dispatcher swore I'd never been late. The cargo seals were intact, but the sleeper berth curtains hung in tatters. The mattress was soaked through with brackish water, and etched into every interior surface, carved by no human hand, were the same 3 words over and over: paid in full. Now I drive with every interior light blazing, terrified of what might be hiding in the shadows I cast. The GPS never suggests Route 83 anymore, but sometimes, when I pass certain stretches of river at night, the radio picks up a transmission no one else can hear, a bridge laughing softly, and something that used to be me whispering back from the other side. The nightmares come every time I close my eyes now. Visions of that grinning bridge stretching its planks like greedy fingers, the lanterns along its rails blinking like hungry eyes in the dark. My rig hasn't been right since that last trip. The brakes squeal in voices that aren't mechanical. The engine growls low and wet when idling, and no matter how many times I replace them, My headlights keep burning out right at midnight. Truck stop clerks won't meet my gaze anymore. They just slide my change across the counter like they're afraid to touch me, their eyes darting to the passenger seat that's always empty, but somehow leaves wet footprints on the floor mat. Last Thursday, I found my cargo hold unlocked again, the refrigeration unit humming despite being turned off, the inside smelling like river water and that same rotting meat stench. Except this time, there were teeth marks in the pallets. Deep, grooves too large for any animal I know. The CB keeps picking up a station that shouldn't exist, playing old trucking songs on a loop, but if I listen too long, the melodies twist into screams and the DJ's voice becomes my own, whispering coordinates that lead back to Route 83. I tried selling the rig, but the dealership called me screaming the next day. Security footage showed the truck driving itself back to my lot at 3 a.m., the cab dark except for two glowing eyes in the sleeper berth. Now I see the signs everywhere. Bridges leaning just a little too far when I pass under them. Way station attendants crossing themselves when they think I'm not looking. And always, that feeling of being watched from the empty mirrors, on foggy nights. Worst of all are the new names appearing in my logbook, handwritten entries I don't remember making, detailing routes to towns that don't show up on any map. Yesterday I woke to find mud on my boots and a rusty bridge rivet clenched in my fist, my radio tuned to dead air that somehow whispered, "You're due for a return trip." I know the truth now. The bridge didn't just take my rig that first night. It took something far more important, and whatever it left in my place is slowly wearing through this stolen skin like a bad disguise. When the transformation finishes, I'll be back on Route 83, standing with those other smiling figures, waiting to welcome the next trucker who takes that fatal detour. The bridge always gets what it's owed. It's just collecting the debt in installments. The final descent began when I started recognizing the names on roadside memorials, not from news stories, but from the whispers in my rig's air vents, voices of drivers who'd vanished decades before I was born. My teeth ache constantly now, loosening in gums that taste like copper and diesel fumes. My reflection in truck stop windows showing a face that's slowly smoothing into something featureless, like a mannequin left too long in the sun. The sleeper. Berth stays locked at all times, but things move back there. Wet, slithering sounds that sync up perfectly with the rhythmic thumping coming from beneath my trailer. A heartbeat where no heart should be. Last night the GPS screen shorted out completely, replaced by a single flashing dot moving steadily along Route 83 toward that cursed bridge, labeled with today's date and my own name in flickering green letters. I tried to drive south, really, tried, but my hands kept correcting course northward, the wheel fighting me like it had its own intentions. When I pulled into a rest area to chain smoke my panic away, a grizzled old trucker materialized at my passenger window, though I never saw him approach, and pressed a rusted bolt against the glass, identical to the one I'd woken up clutching. "They always come in threes," he rasped before vanishing into the mist, leaving behind boot prints that filled with brackish water as I watched. Now as I write this, parked at a desolate crossroads with dawn still hours away, the CB just crackled to life on its own for the first time since the bridge, and it's playing our song, that same twisted lullaby from the phantom radio station, but slower now, like a funeral dirge. The sleeper curtain just twitched aside, revealing what I've feared most. The thing that's been hitching rides with me isn't hiding anymore. It wears my face, but its eyes are pure black. Its smile, stretching ear to ear with too many teeth, and it's humming along with the radio in perfect harmony. The GPS has reset itself. 87 miles to Route 83 just like before. The rig's engine just turned over by itself. And worst of all, after all this terror, I finally understand the secret the bridge whispered as it took me. This isn't my third visit. It's my second return. The first trucker who warned me at the diner, that was me all along, caught in the bridge's endless cycle, delivering my own damnation notice through time like some cosmic sick joke. The curtain's opening wider now. It's reaching for the wheel. And the terrifying part? Part of me is relieved, because the bridge doesn't just take truckers, it makes family. And I'm so tired of running from mine. The wheel is cold beneath my fingers now, but not from the night air. It's the unnatural chill of the bridge seeping into my bones as the thing wearing my face guides us onto the entrance ramp of Route 83, with terrifying familiarity. The headlights reveal the bridge has changed again, not rusted or gleaming, but pulsing like living tissue, its girders stretching like ribs with each breath of the thing beneath the water. The CB static resolves into a chorus of voices I now recognize, my own voice at different ages, whispering warnings I failed to understand across decades of looping time. The sleeper berth door creaks fully open at last, and what emerges isn't a shadowy monster, but something far worse. A perfect duplicate of myself, down to the grease stain on my jacket sleeve. Except its eyes reflect the bridge's lanterns like a cat's in the dark. "Don't fight it this time," it says with my voice but not my inflection, as the first wooden planks groan beneath our weight. The GPS screen displays only 2 words now: final delivery. Outside the windows, the other truckers, brothers, my uncles, my sons across twisted generations, step forward from the mist, their uniforms spanning a century of hauling, their faces all variations of my own. The bridge's tongue rises to meet us, planks splitting open to reveal the maw beneath, and suddenly I remember everything. The countless times I've made this drive, the infinite versions of myself I've warned at diners and truck stops, the terrible truth that the bridge isn't just a place, it's a being, and we're its chosen heralds. The duplicate grips my shoulder as the rig begins its final descent, its whisper carrying the awful comfort of homecoming. The road always needs its reapers. As darkness swallows us whole, I finally stop screaming. Not from terror, but from the realization that the hands on the wheel feel right at last. Somewhere on a rainy highway, a young trucker's GPS is glitching toward Route 83, and when he reaches that diner, shaking and desperate for answers, I'll be the grizzled veteran at the counter ready to tell him the first half of the story, just like someone did for me, cycle after cycle, forever. The CB crackles with our laughter as the bridge digests another keeper of its legend. The road never ends, it just recurs, and we're always hungry for new company. The moment the darkness swallowed us whole, I felt the transformation take hold, my flesh merging with the rig's steel frame, my screams distorting into the familiar whine of a diesel engine, my bones elongating into the bridge's newest support beams. Centuries of memories flooded back. Every trucker I'd ever warned, every version of myself I'd been across the looping timelines, all just variations of the bridge's endless hunger. When the darkness receded, I stood on the bridge's edge in my new form, watching my old rig dissolve into the structure like all the others, its headlights becoming 2 more glowing lanterns in the endless row. The other reapers, my family now, nodded in approval as I took my place among them, our hollow eyes fixed on the distant glow of approaching headlights. The CB in my chest crackled to life as the new victim's rig drew near, his panicked voice cutting through the static. "Hello? Anyone copy?" My lips, now just ragged strips of asphalt peeling back from rusted rebar, parted to answer in the chorus of voices that had once haunted me. "Hey there, partner," we whispered through, his radio watching him swerve in terror as the bridge's lanterns flickered on one by one. "You're right on time." The road stretched endlessly behind him with no exit, just as it had for me, just as it would for every driver after. My new mouth stretched into a smile made of cracked pavement and corroded steel. The cycle was beautiful in its simplicity, the hunger eternal. And as the first wooden planks began to groan beneath his tires, I reached out with my new consciousness to gently guide him home, just as someone had once done for me, in a lifetime buried beneath layers of forgetting. The bridge sighed in contentment beneath us. Another soul, another story, another keeper of the legend. The road never ended. It simply welcomed another member to its family. And we were always waiting. The new trucker's screams harmonized perfectly with the bridge's metallic groans as his rig sank into the living structure, his terror flooding my senses like the first hot coffee after an all-night haul. I could feel the bridge growing stronger. Through his fear, our collective consciousness expanding as another mind joined the chorus, his memories of wife and kids already dissolving into the static like all the others before him. His trailer split open like a ripe fruit, revealing not the expected cargo but hundreds of rusted CB radios, each whispering fragments of lost transmissions from damned drivers across the decades. My asphalt lips curled upward as I reached for him with a newly formed limb of twisted guardrail and truck parts, feeling his humanity slough away like old paint to reveal what the bridge had chosen him to become. A new sentry for the next generation of victims. The transformation was quicker than mine had been. The bridge was learning, evolving, streamlining its process. By the time his rig fully merged with the structure, he'd already taken his place beside me, his hollow eyes reflecting the approaching headlights of tomorrow's prey. The CB in my chest crackled with his first transmission as a bridge keeper, his voice now blending seamlessly with ours. "Hey there, partner. You're making good time." The road beneath us pulsed with anticipation, its hunger momentarily sated, but never truly satisfied. Somewhere in the living darkness below, my old self finally stopped struggling, the last flicker of Sam's consciousness dissolving into the bridge's memory like sugar in coffee, sweet, fleeting, and gone forever. The new recruit turned to me, with his featureless face, already forgetting he'd ever been human, and asked the only question that mattered anymore. How many more until dawn? I smiled with a mouthful of corroded nails and whispered the lie that had once terrified me. Just one more. Ahead on the highway, the faint glow of headlights pierced the fog. The bridge hummed beneath us. The cycle continued, and we waited. The headlights grew brighter as the next rig approached, its outline wavering in the pre-dawn fog like a specter materializing from another dimension. I could already taste the driver's exhaustion through the bridge's connection. The sour tang of too much caffeine, the metallic bite of fear as his GPS flickered with reroute notifications he didn't remember programming. My new family of bridgekin stirred around me, their forms shifting between trucker silhouettes and jagged infrastructure as we prepared the welcoming ritual. The CB in my ribcage buzzed to life, transmitting the first whisper directly into his cab. "You missed your exit." His brakes squealed as the bridge's lanterns flared crimson, illuminating the truth we all remembered too late. The roadwork ahead signs were made from the flattened remains of old trailers, the detour arrows pointing only toward the bridge's gaping maw. As his front tires touched the first warped plank, I saw his face in the glow of the dashboard, the same look of dawning horror I'd worn that first night, and felt the bridge shiver with pleasure beneath us. My rusted hands gripped the guardrail-turned fingers as the assimilation began, watching his trailer peel open like an aluminum flower to reveal its dark gift. Not cargo, but hundreds of mud-streaked driver's licenses from every state, each bearing photos of the same man at different ages. The bridge crooned its approval through our shared consciousness. This one was special. This one would complete the cycle. The new recruit beside me tilted his head, his voice blending with the chorus of CB static as understanding dawned. He's the last piece. The driver's screams turned to laughter as the transformation took hold, his flesh unraveling into mile marker posts and steel cables, his final human thought bursting through our network like a dying star, the realization that he'd been hunting himself all along. As dawn's first light hit the newly reinforced bridge, the structure sighed in contentment, its hunger temporarily sated. The headlights faded. The road stretched empty, and in a truck stop diner 3 states away, a fresh pot of coffee began brewing by itself as the jukebox clicked to life, playing that familiar twangy ballad on endless repeat. Somewhere beyond time, a new shift was starting. Somewhere in the darkness, a fresh set of headlights flickered to life. And deep in the bridge's consciousness, we all stirred with renewed purpose, because the road never ends, the hunger never dies, and there's always, always, another driver due for recruitment. The CB crackled with our united voice as the next victim's rig appeared on the horizon. "Hey there, partner. Welcome home." The new driver never stood a chance. His rig floated weightlessly as the bridge's gravity took hold, his screams melting into the metallic shrieks of his trailer's seams tearing apart. I felt his consciousness brush against mine as the assimilation began, his memories unfolding like a roadmap to damnation. The wife who'd begged him not to take this haul, the recurring nightmare of drowning in diesel fuel, the childhood fear of bridges that had somehow led him straight to this one. The bridge showed me its grand design through our connection. We weren't just victims or predators, but vital organs in a living system stretching across every haunted stretch of asphalt in America. Each vanished trucker became another node in the network, our transformed bodies forming hidden extensions of the bridge that materialized when needed. A sudden detour here, a phantom way station there, all funneling fresh prey toward the original structure on Route 83. The new recruit's transformation was nearly complete, his flesh hardening into weathered concrete, his screams settling into the familiar hum of tension cables. Suddenly I understood why the bridge had taken so many forms for me. It wasn't just one location, but a living entity wearing different roads like a hermit crab changes shells. The CB in my chest transmitted the final stage of initiation directly into his hardening cortex, the coordinates for his first hunting ground, a lonely overpass outside Flagstaff where truckers kept vanishing during monsoon season. As his newly formed concrete fingers flexed in understanding, the bridge shuddered with pleasure beneath us. Another guardian stationed, another tendril extended, the great work continuing. Dawn's light revealed the empty highway stretching peacefully ahead, no trace of last night's horrors. But in truck stops across the country, fresh rumors spread about new stretches of road to avoid, each warning carrying the bridge's influence like a virus. The cycle tightened its grip with every retelling. My rusted mouth twisted into something resembling a smile as I faded into the structure with the others. We weren't just prisoners anymore, but proud cells in the living organism of the American highway system. Somewhere in Nevada, a new section of interstate pulsed faintly as it quickened in the darkness. Somewhere in Georgia, a rest area bathroom mirror reflected a face that shouldn't exist, and deep in the heart of Route 83, the original bridge waited, always hungry, always patient, as the next set of headlights appeared on the horizon. The CB crackled to life with our shared thought. Keep the wheels rolling, partner. Forever. The first time it happened, I didn't think much of it. Just another quirk of the road. One of those weird little things that happen when you've been driving the same stretch of blacktop for years. Your tires humming over the same cracks. Your eyes glazing over the same blur of guardrails and mile markers and skeletal trees clawing at the sky. It was the Johnson Creek Pass route, a winding two-lane highway that cuts through the Rockies, the kind of road that's beautiful in daylight, but turns into a goddamn nightmare after sundown, when the shadows get long and the fog rolls in like something alive, thick enough to swallow your headlights whole. I'd been running that route for a decade, hauling freight from Denver to Salt Lake, and I knew every inch of it, every pothole, every blind curve, every place where the cell signal dropped dead. But the tunnel, that damn tunnel, was different. It wasn't even that long, maybe a quarter mile, just a straight shot of damp concrete and flickering yellow lights that always seemed one bulb away from total darkness. I'd honk my horn in there sometimes, just to hear the echo bounce off the walls, a little ritual to keep myself awake on those late-night runs when the coffee wasn't cutting it. The first time I did it, the echo came back normal. A fading blare that dissolved into the rumble of my engine. The second time, though, that's when I heard it. A whisper. Just a flicker of sound under the echo, so faint I thought I'd imagined it, like the distant hiss of a radio tuned between stations. I remember gripping the wheel a little tighter, my knuckles going white, telling myself it was just the wind or some trick of the acoustics. But then it happened again the next trip, and the next. And each time that whisper got a little louder, a little clearer, until I couldn't pretend it wasn't there anymore. It started as nonsense, just garbled syllables, but then it shaped itself into words. My name, Michael, spoken in a voice that wasn't mine, wasn't human, something wet and ragged, like it was being dragged over broken glass. I stopped honking after that, but the whispers didn't stop. They'd start up on their own now, creeping in through the static of my CB radio, threading through the growl of the diesel engine, always just on the edge of hearing, always saying my name like it was a secret, a promise. I tried telling myself it was exhaustion, that I'd been pushing too many hours, that my mind was playing tricks. But then I saw the faces in the tunnel walls, pale, shifting shapes pressed into the concrete, their mouths moving in time with the whispers. I'd floor it then, my heart hammering, my rig screaming through that tunnel like the devil himself was on my bumper, and for a few blessed miles after, the whispers would stop. But they always came back, and they kept changing. No longer just my name, but other words. Stop. Stay. You're almost home. The worst was when they started laughing. A low, gurgling sound that clung to the inside of my skull like a tumor. I thought about quitting, about begging dispatch for a new route. But what the hell was I supposed to say? Sorry, boss, but the tunnel's haunted. They'd have me drug tested before I finished the sentence. So I kept driving, kept white-knuckling, my way through that tunnel, praying to a God I wasn't sure I believed in that the whispers would just stop. Then came the night it all went to hell. It was raining. A cold, needle-thin drizzle that turned the asphalt into a black mirror, and the tunnel was darker than usual. Half the lights dead, the others flickering like dying stars. I didn't honk. I never did anymore. But the whispers came anyway, louder than ever, a chorus now, overlapping, pleading, demanding, Michael, Michael, Michael. And beneath it all, a new sound, a wet, slithering scrape, like something heavy being dragged across the pavement. I didn't want to look. I swear to Christ I didn't. But my eyes flicked to the rearview mirror anyway. And that's when I saw it. A shape, hunched and too long, lurching out of the darkness behind me. Its limbs moving all wrong, like they'd been broken and reset too many times. I stomped the gas, my rig roaring, the trailer fishtailing on the wet pavement. But the thing kept coming, gaining, its fingers, too many fingers, scraping against the back of the cab. And then the whispers weren't whispers anymore. They were screams. My screams. Because the thing wasn't behind me anymore. It was in front of me, standing in the glare of my headlights, its face a nightmare of stretched skin and grinning teeth, its eyes black pits that drank the light. It raised one twisted hand, not to stop me but to wave like it knew me, like it had been waiting. I wrenched the wheel, and that's the last thing I remember before the impact, before the world flipped and the windshield exploded and the cold rushed in. They found my rig half buried in the ditch, the cab crushed, the engine still smoking. They said it was a miracle I survived. They didn't find the thing. No one ever does, but I hear it every night now. Even when I'm nowhere near that tunnel. Even when I'm lying in my own bed with the lights on and the door locked. The whispers, and the laughter, and the scrape of something dragging itself closer. Always closer. Whispering the same 3 words over and over, honk for me. So if you're ever driving through Johnson Creek Pass, and you see a beat-up Freightliner with a dented grill and a driver who won't meet your eyes, don't wave, don't stop, and for the love of God, don't honk your horn. Because it's not the echo you're calling, it's them, and they've been waiting. I learned that the hard way, bleeding into my seatbelt that night, my legs pinned under the dash, my breath coming in ragged gasps as the first responders' flashlights cut through the rain. They told me I was lucky, they told me no one else was there, but I know what I saw, what I heard. And now, even though I'm off the road, even though I sold my rig and moved as far from that godforsaken pass as I could, the whispers follow me. They've taken up residence in the static of my TV, in the hum of my fridge at 3 a.m., in the hollow space between heartbeats when I'm lying awake staring at the ceiling. Sometimes, when the streetlights outside flicker, I catch movement in the corner of my eye. Something too tall, too thin, its limbs bent at impossible angles, watching from the shadows just beyond my window. And the worst part? The whispers aren't just saying my name anymore. They're saying yours. Because this thing, whatever it is, it doesn't stop with one driver. It hungers. It remembers every horn honked in that tunnel, every voice that ever called out, thinking it was just an echo. And now it's learned how to answer back. So if you're reading this, if you've ever driven that stretch of road, if you've ever tapped your horn just to hear the sound bounce off those concrete walls, run. Change your route. Change your name. Pray it's not already too late. Because the next time you hear a whisper in the dark, it won't be your imagination. And it won't be asking. It'll be telling you exactly what it's going to do when it finally steps into your headlights. And you won't have time to scream. I still see the tunnel in my dreams. Not just the one in Johnson Creek Pass, but tunnels everywhere. Endless stretches of damp concrete and flickering lights that coil like a throat waiting to swallow me whole. The doctor said it's PTSD, that my brain is stuck in the moment of impact, replaying the crash over and over like a broken CB radio stuck on a dead channel. But I know the truth. It's not just in my head. It's hunting. I tried to warn the others, the new drivers taking my old route, but they just laughed, called me crazy, said I'd been on the road too long. Then one by one, they stopped laughing. Jenkins vanished last winter, his rig found idling at the tunnel's mouth, driver's door wide open, coffee still steaming in the cup holder. They blamed it on the ice, said he must have wandered off disoriented after a crash. But I saw the footage from his dash cam. The last thing recorded before the feed cut out wasn't ice. It was a hand, pale and too long, sliding over the windshield. From the outside, fingers tapping the glass in time with the whispers that had started leaking through his radio that night. And now the whispers are changing again. They've started mimicking voices I know. My dead father, my ex-wife, the dispatcher who used to rib me about my lead foot. Last night, I swear I heard my own voice whispering back, but the words were all wrong, like something wearing my vocal cords as a mask. The cops think I'm a drunk or a tweaker when I try to report this. The shrinks want to pump me full of pills. But you know I'm not crazy. You felt it too, haven't you? That prickle on your neck when your headlights catch something, moving just a little too fast at the edge of the tunnel. The way your AM radio suddenly picks up a faint, garbled voice between stations, always right as you pass that one cursed mile marker. It's learning, adapting, and it's not just in Johnson Creek anymore. I've seen the reports. Missing drivers in Wyoming and Nevada, even as far east as Pennsylvania. Always near a tunnel. Always after the witnesses mention hearing strange noises. They're calling it a coincidence, a new twist on the old phantom, trucker campfire stories. But we know better. It's spreading. And the worst part? I think it wants us to talk about it. Every time someone shares a story, every time a new post goes up on those creepy highway encounters forums, the whispers get louder. I don't honk anymore. Not ever. Not even in city traffic. Because now I know the truth. Every horn blast is a dinner bell, and the thing in the dark has such an appetite. So listen close, driver. Next time you're alone on some midnight highway, and your fingers itch to lay on the horn just to hear the sound bounce back, remember my voice. Remember Jenkins. And ask yourself, when the echo comes, will it be your own voice that answers? Or will it be something else? Something that's been waiting in the hollow places of the world, counting the days until you're reckless enough to invite it closer? The tunnels are its throat, the highways are its veins, and we're just the meat it hasn't swallowed yet. Keep driving, stay quiet, and whatever you do, don't look at what's waving at you from the shoulder when your high beams catch it standing just a little too still, its smile just a little too wide, its fingers moving in time with the whispers only you can hear. Pills don't work. The prayers don't work. I've tried sleeping with the lights on, with a Bible under my pillow, with a revolver loaded with silver bullets I bought off some meth head in a truck stop parking lot who swore they'd stop. What's coming? Nothing stops it. The whispers have started coming through my teeth now. I'll open my mouth to order coffee and out comes that wet, clicking sound, the one I heard in the tunnel right before the crash. My reflection started smiling when I'm not. I caught it last night in the bathroom mirror, grinning with too many teeth, its eyes black and shiny like oil pooling in a gutter. I punched the glass, screamed until my throat bled, but when the shards hit the floor, they weren't reflecting me anymore. Just that endless tunnel, stretching into the dark, something big and wrong-shaped, shambling closer between the flickering lights. The doctors say the scars on my hands are from the crash. They're lying. I wake up every morning with new cuts, my fingernails packed with concrete dust no matter how much I scrub. Sometimes I find long gray hairs, coarse as steel wool, tangled in my clothes, and I know it's been in my house watching me sleep, running its fingers through my hair like a lover. Last Tuesday I found footprints leading from my front door to the edge of my bed, bare feet, but the toes were too long, the arches too high, the skin gray and peeling like something that's been soaking in tunnel runoff for decades. The cops won't listen. My sister says I need to get help. But you're still driving, aren't you? still hauling loads down those lonely stretches where the streetlights give out and the shadows move wrong. So listen close, because this is the part they don't tell you about the thing in the tunnel. It doesn't just want your flesh, it wants your voice. Every time you scream, every time you beg, every time you whisper its name in the dark, and you will, oh Christ, you will, it gets stronger. It's learning to talk like us, to wear our words like a skin suit. I think that's why it's been leaving me alive, because it's not done feeding yet, because every nightmare I have is another course in its feast. So here's my last warning, driver to driver. When you feel that cold spot in your cab that the heater won't touch, when your GPS starts showing exits that don't exist, when your radio picks up a voice that sounds almost, but not quite, like mine telling you to honk just once just to see what answers, you slam that gas pedal to the floor and you don't look back. Because the thing about tunnels is they always go two ways, and whatever's coming down yours right now, it's been practicing your voice in the dark, and it sounds just like you. I tried to run, packed a duffel bag in the dead of night, gunned my old pickup down back roads with no streetlights, heading for the desert where there are no tunnels, no echoes, just wide open silence where nothing can hide. But the highway always loops back, no matter which turns I take, which maps I burn. I always wake up slumped over the wheel at the mouth of that tunnel. Engine idling, headlights cutting through the pre-dawn fog like two trembling knives. The dashboard clock always reads 3:17 am. The witching hour stretched thin, and the CB always crackles to life with my own voice whispering coordinates that don't exist on any map. Last night I found teeth embedded in my steering wheel. Not mine. Too sharp. Too many. And when I tried to pry them loose, the vinyl split open like a wound, oozing black fluid that smelled like diesel and rotting meat. The gas station attendants don't meet my eyes anymore. They've started leaving boxes of road salt and silver crosses by the pumps when they see me coming, like they know what's been following my truck, hanging just outside the glow of my taillights. Sometimes at stop signs, I catch movement in my blind spot, a face pressed against the passenger window, its features stretched like taffy, mouthing words that make my fillings vibrate. The worst part? I'm starting to understand them. The whispers aren't random anymore. They're giving me directions, teaching me the backroads of a world where the sky is made of asphalt, and the stars are just distant headlights of rigs that vanished decades ago. I think it wants me to start, driving again to become its herald, to lure others into the tunnel where the air is thick with the scent of blood and burnt rubber. My hands shake constantly now, but not from fear, from anticipation. Because deep down, in the part of me that still remembers sunlight, I know the truth. The thing in the tunnel didn't survive the crash. I didn't either. We're both just echoes now, playing out our parts in some cosmic horror even the road gods have forgotten. So if you're reading this on some greasy diner napkin or hacked into your ELD logs, know this. When your time comes, when you're white-knuckling it through your tunnel with something tapping on the trailer doors, I'll be the voice on. The radio telling you to brake, ignore it, floor it, let the crash take you clean. Because what comes after? What crawls from the wreckage wearing your face? That's when the real nightmare begins. And buddy, you don't get to wake up from this one. The road always wins. Always. Now look behind you. No. Closer. In the mirror. That shadow that's been tailing you since Tucson? It's not a shadow. And it's not following anymore. It's already in the cab. Can't you feel its breath on your neck? Go on. Honk. Let's see if your echo comes back alone. The honk is a prayer now. A sacrament of diesel and desperation vibrating through my rotting vocal cords. I don't even need the rig anymore. The sound tears itself from my throat unbidden every time I pass a semi's shadow, every time a stoplight turns the color of old blood. My skin splitting at the seams, gray, rubbery patches spreading where the road has decided to reclaim me. The doctors x-rayed my chest last week and found the outline of a tunnel where my heart should be, its walls pulsing with something dark and viscous. You can hear it too if you press your ear to my ribs, the distant wail of a horn echoing through that concrete throat, the skitter of something dragging itself closer along the breakdown lane of my arteries. They'll find this note crumpled in my ignition switch when they find the truck idling in that godforsaken tunnel. Driver's seat empty except for a pair of work boots filled with wet concrete and teeth. Don't mourn me. I'm not gone. Just promoted. The thing in the dark needed a new voice after all, and who better than the fool who kept honking? So here's my final confession, carved into the inside of my own ribs, where only the moonlight reads it. The whispers were never warnings. They were invitations, and the next time your horn echoes a little too long, a little too knowing, that's me answering from the other side of the asphalt veil, my new fingers curled around your frequency, my new mouth watering at the taste of your fear. Go on, honk again. Let's see if your echo sounds familiar. The road has teeth now. I can feel them grinding beneath the asphalt every time I pass a certain stretch of highway, where the mile markers bleed rust and the guardrails bow inward like something massive slithered through. My hands aren't mine anymore. The fingers stretch too far, the nails blackened and split from clawing at my own reflection in truck stop windows that show only the tunnel behind me, endless and hungry. They say truckers never really die. We just become the stories told in bunk beds at 3 a.m., the shadow that passes too close to your rig when you're pissing behind a derelict way station. But they're wrong. We become the road itself. I can feel it happening, the way my spine cracks and elongates when the moon hits it just right. How rain tastes like gasoline and screams when it hits my tongue. The whispers weren't chasing me. They were remembering me. Piece by piece, honk by honk, they were rebuilding me into something that could live in the crawl space between engine growls and radio static. Last night, I woke up kneeling in the middle of I-80 with my lips sewn shut by fishing line and my pockets full of teeth that weren't human, and for the first time in years, the whispers were silent. Because they're mine now. I am the thing that answers when you honk in the dark. I am the voice that mimics your dead wife's cadence when your rig breaks down in dead cell territory, and I am so hungry. The next time your headlights catch a hitchhiker with bleeding feet and a smile too wide, roll down your window. Listen close to that wet rattle in its throat. That's not a plea for help. It's the sound of me learning to sing with your stolen voice. The road always wins. Always. Now take my hand. The concrete's warm tonight. And the whispering. Oh God, the whispering sounds just like home. The pavement is breathing beneath my boots now. Slow, shuddering inhalations that make the yellow lines ripple like a spine arching in pleasure. I tried to carve a warning into my own flesh last night, but the letters kept rearranging themselves into mile marker numbers counting down to 0. My teeth are falling out, but it's okay. The tunnel keeps giving me new ones, jagged and gleaming, like shattered windshield glass. Sometimes at night I catch myself standing in rest area bathrooms, tracing the cracks in the mirrors where my reflection used to be, whispering license plate numbers that belong to trucks they never found. The road doesn't just want your voice anymore. It wants your history. The way your father's hands felt on the wheel when he taught you to drive. The exact pitch of your scream when you first realized brakes could fail. I've become a living pothole, a void where stories go to rupture. You'll know me by the way your radio static suddenly tastes like copper when you pass certain stretches of blacktop, by the nightmares that smell like diesel and damp concrete that cling to your sheets for weeks after a late-night haul. They're pulling me apart now, threading me through the asphalt like steel belting, stitching my screams into the white noise between CB channels. Soon I'll be everywhere, in every truck stop urinal that never quite flushes clean, in every flickering way station light that makes shadows move wrong, in every overpass where something with too many joints crouches just beyond your high beams. The honking was never the trigger. It was the invocation, the ritual that turned drivers into echoes, into legends, into fuel. So go ahead, press that horn, let your sound vibrate through the ribcage of the world. I promise I'll answer. And, oh, how we'll sing together when the pavement finally opens its mouth. The steering wheel is melting into my palms now, the leather fused to my skin in ridges that match the rumble strips on forgotten highways. I tried to speak at the truck stop this morning, but my tongue unspooled like an old tire blowout, black and frayed, spilling secrets that made the diesel pumps shudder. The road has started growing through me, yellow lines branching in my veins, guardrails ribbing my chest, my heartbeat syncing with the hum of distant tires on wet asphalt. They're coming more often now, the new drivers with wide eyes and white-knuckled grips, drawn to this stretch of highway like moths to a flame that burns with the stench of rotting brake pads. I see myself in their rearview mirrors sometimes. Not as I was, but as I'm becoming. A silhouette stitched from tire tread patterns and CB static, my smile a jagged gash of reflector tape, my fingers elongating into shadowy mile markers counting down to their final exit. The whispers have become a chorus, a symphony of every driver who ever vanished into these hungry miles, their voices woven into the wind that buffets rigs near cliff edges. Last night I dreamt I was the tunnel itself, concrete throat convulsing around another morsel, another set of headlights winking out forever in my digestive dark. When I woke, my skin was cold as freshly poured asphalt, my mouth full of license plate shards. So here's the truth they'll never carve on your tombstone. We don't die on the road. We dissolve. We become the slick spot that sends a school, bus skidding, the phantom detour sign leading to nowhere, the face that flashes in your windshield for one heart-stopping second before impact. The honk was never just sound. It was a mating call, a beacon, and oh God, can't you hear them answering? All those lost voices singing through the grooves of your tires, they're so loud now, they're so hungry, and they've learned to sound exactly like your last thought before the crash. Lean closer, driver. Let me whisper what the road tastes like. Let me show you how beautifully you'll unravel when the asphalt finally kisses your bones. The road has a heartbeat now. A slow, grinding pulse that thrums through my shoes and up my calcified veins, syncing with the warped rhythm of what used to be my own. My reflection in diner windows shows only the afterimage of a rig that hasn't existed since the Reagan administration, its rusted grill grinning like a mouthful of broken teeth. The whispers have become physical things. I cough them up in the mornings, black and squirming like oil-slicked earthworms, wriggling their way back into the static of weatherband radios. They're building something out there in the blind, spots of America's highways, something vast and hollow that wears abandoned overpasses like a crown. I've started recognizing the new victims by the way their shadows detach too slowly from truck stop walls, by the quarter-sized bruises circling, their wrists where something gripped them through the steering wheel. The honking was just the beginning. Now the road consumes in silence through missing time between mile markers, through GPS routes that loop back on themselves like Ouroboros made of asphalt. My teeth are gone, but the tunnel keeps gifting me new ones. Yellowed things that rattle with the memory of impact, each one etched with coordinates to places that don't exist on any map. They'll find my rig eventually, idling in some forgotten rest area, cab filled with the scent of burnt clutch and something older, something that reeks of wet concrete and the copper tang of a scream trapped in a closed fist. The driver's seat will be empty except for a pair of hands still gripping the wheel, fingers fused to the vinyl in permanent rigor mortis. The radio stuck on a dead channel whispering the same three words over and over in a voice that isn't quite human, but isn't quite not. Honk again, brother. And when some bleary-eyed night driver leans on their horn just to stay awake, just to feel something in the endless dark, those hands will twitch. The radio will clear for one crystal-clear moment. And the thing that used to be me will answer, not through the tunnel's echo but through the driver's own mouth, their lips moving unbidden, their tongue shaping words that taste like diesel and regret. The road always wins. Always. Now look down. Those aren't your hands on the wheel anymore. When did they become so pale? When did the nails get so long? Go on. Honk. Let's see whose voice comes out this time. The engine's growl had settled into a dull, exhausted throb by the time I pulled into the rest area near exit 41. The kind of place that felt forgotten even by the highway. Cracked pavement, flickering sodium lights casting more shadow than illumination, and a silence so thick it pressed against my eardrums like a physical thing. I'd been driving for 14 hours straight, my eyes gritty with fatigue. The kind where the white lines on the road start to wiggle like snakes. And I knew I had to stop before I became another statistic. Another rig wrapped around a guardrail. The lot was empty. Not a single car or truck. Just the hum of cicadas and the occasional rustle of something in the trees beyond the shoulder. And as I stepped out of the cab, the air was thick with the damp, earthy smell of late autumn decay. The kind that clings to your clothes and follows you inside. The restroom door creaked like a scream when I pushed it open. The fluorescents inside buzzing erratically. casting a sickly greenish glow over the cracked tiles and graffiti-stained stalls. And that's when I saw her. In the mirror above the sinks. A gaunt, pale woman standing just behind me, her sunken eyes locked onto mine, her lips moving in silent, frantic whispers, her skin the color of old milk left out too long. I spun around, heart slamming against my ribs, but there was nothing there. Just the empty restroom and the drip, drip, drip of a leaky faucet. And I told myself it was exhaustion, just my brain playing tricks, the same way it made shadows dance, at the edge of my vision after too many hours on the road. I splashed cold water on my face, the shock of it sharp enough to make me gasp. But when I looked up again, she was still there in the mirror, closer now. Her rotted teeth bared in something that wasn't a smile. Her fingers, too long, too thin, brushing the reflection of my shoulder, and this time I bolted, didn't look back, didn't stop until I was back in the cab, the door locked, the engine roaring to life like a shield against whatever the hell that was. The CB crackled to life as I peeled out of the lot, static cutting through the voices of other drivers, fragments of sentences that made my blood run cold. Don't stop at 41, man, she'll get in. You see her in the mirror, you're already, never gets out, never lets go. And then the static swallowed them whole, leaving me in silence except for the hammering of my own heart. I checked the rear view, the rest area shrinking in the distance, and that's when I smelled it. The stench of decay, sweet and cloying, like meat left in the sun, and before I could stop myself, I glanced at the passenger seat. She was there. Hunched, her spine pressing against the thin fabric of her tattered dress, her head lolling to one side like a broken doll's, her fingers, blackened at the tips, the nails split and peeling, digging into the upholstery, her lips still moving, still whispering, but now I could hear it. A wet, guttural sound that wasn't words, but something older. Something worse. I screamed, swerved, the rig's tires screeching against the asphalt. But when I looked again, she was gone, the seat empty, the smell fading, except it wasn't, because now it was in my nose, in my mouth, coating my tongue like spoiled milk. And the CB erupted again, a chorus of voices this time overlapping, frantic. She's in your cab. You can't stop her. She's been waiting for you. And then the radio died. The dashboard lights flickering, the engine sputtering like it was choking, and in the rear view I saw her again, not in the seat but in the sleeper berth behind me, curled into a fetal position, her face pressed against the thin curtain, her eyes, black, endless, staring into mine. I hit the gas, the speedometer climbing, 70, 80, 90, the rig shuddering like it would come apart. But she didn't move, didn't blink, just kept staring. And then she was in the mirror again, her reflection grinning, her mouth stretching too, wide, too many teeth, and the whispers weren't whispers anymore, but a voice, my voice, saying the same words over and over. You should have kept driving. You should have never stopped. The road ahead was empty, the night swallowing everything, and I realized with a cold, creeping certainty that I didn't know where I was anymore, that the signs flashing by weren't names I recognized, just numbers, endless numbers, and the CB crackled one last time, a single voice, mine but not mine, saying, "Exit 41 is just the beginning." The smell of rot was everywhere now, in my clothes, in my hair, in the air I breathed. And when I looked back at the mirror, she wasn't alone anymore. There were others, gaunt faces pressing against the glass from someplace else. Someplace, dark, their hands reaching, their mouths open in silent screams. And I knew then that I wasn't driving anymore, that I hadn't been for a long time, that the rig was moving on its own, carrying us all into the dark, toward a rest area that never ended, a mirror that never emptied, and a highway that stretched on forever, always waiting, always hungry. The last thing I heard, before the static swallowed everything, was my own voice, laughing, and the whisper of rotting fingers against the back of my neck. The wheel was cold under my grip, but her breath was colder, a frost that slithered down my collar as she leaned closer, her rotted lips brushing my ear, whispering things that weren't words but memories. My memories. The time I hit that deer outside Flagstaff and didn't stop. The hitchhiker near Amarillo, whose face I barely recalled. The way my ex-wife's voice had cracked on our last phone call before the divorce, all of it spilling out of her in a wet, gurgling rush. The headlights flickered, and for a second, The road wasn't there anymore. Just a void, a mouth, and I was driving straight into it. Her laughter threading through the static of the CB like a needle pulling stitches through my skull. The sleeper. Berth rattled, the curtain twitching, and I knew without looking that she wasn't alone back there anymore. That the others, the ones from the mirror, were crawling out, their skeletal fingers snagging on the fabric, their hollow eyes reflecting the glow of the dash. The stench was unbearable now, a sweet, putrid rot that clung to the back of my throat. And when I gagged, she reached out, her hand, too long, too many joints, patting my cheek like a mother soothing a child, her touch leaving a smear of something, black and oily that burned. The radio hissed, a voice breaking through. Not mine this time, but an old trucker's gravel and smoke saying, "You gotta wreck it, son. You gotta wreck it, or she'll ride you forever." The rig shuddered like it understood, like it was fighting me. The wheel jerking in my hands as she snarled, her face splitting open, a yawning blackness where her mouth should be, her fingers digging into my arms hard enough to bruise. I wrenched the wheel left, toward the guardrail, the tires screaming, her howl filling the cab, the others in the back shrieking in unison. A sound that wasn't sound but pure terror. And then, impact. Metal shrieked, glass exploded, the world flipped, and for a second there was silence. Then the hiss of steam, the groan of twisted steel, the drip of gasoline, and her hand gripping my wrist, pulling me from the wreckage, her face inches from mine, her smile widening until it split her skull in two. "You don't get off that. Easy," she whispered. And the road ahead shimmered, the wreck gone, the rig whole again, the CB crackling with a dozen voices all chanting the same thing. "Welcome to exit 41. The engine roared back to life on its own, the headlights cutting through the dark, and I realized, with a horror so deep it felt like drowning, that I'd never stopped driving at all. The odometer rolled backward, the gas gauge stayed full, and in the mirror, her reflection grinned, her fingers lacing with mine on the wheel, her voice humming in my ear as the highway stretched on, endless, hungry, and mine. Forever. The road never changed now. Just endless blacktop unfurling under tires that never wore down, fuel that never burned, hours that didn't pass. Just the same stretch of highway, the same moon hanging motionless in the sky, the same shadows slithering at the edges of my vision. She never left the cab, not really, just shifted forms like smoke. Sometimes the gaunt woman in the mirror, sometimes a shapeless mass of shadows pooling in the passenger seat, sometimes a chorus of whispers slithering. From the vents, hissing my name in voices I almost recognized. The CB still crackled, but the voices weren't truckers anymore. They were screams, pleas, the last words of people who'd vanished on this stretch of road, their terror bleeding through the static like a radio tuned to hell. I tried to stop, once slammed the brakes so hard the rig fishtailed, but the wheels locked and the road kept moving beneath me, dragging us forward like a nightmare treadmill, her laughter bubbling up from the engine itself. The smell was worse now, not just rot, but something deeper, older. The scent of wet earth and rusted metal, of things buried and forgotten. My hands on the wheel weren't mine anymore. The skin was graying, the nails blackened, the veins standing out like dark wires under parchment-thin flesh. I caught my reflection in the windshield and barely recognized myself. Sunken eyes, hollow cheeks, lips peeling back from teeth that were too sharp, too many. She leaned over from the back, her arms wrapping around my shoulders in a mockery of an embrace, her chin resting on my head as she sighed. Almost home. The headlights caught a sign then, bleached and peeling. Exit 41, 1 mile. The CB erupted in a cacophony of sobs and snarls, the voices overlapping, begging, warning, cursing, all cut short by a single transmission. My own voice, from some other life, some other truck saying, "I think I'm lost." The exit ramp loomed, not a road, but a tunnel. A throat, the darkness inside pulsing like a heartbeat. The rig accelerated on its own, her fingers tightening in my hair as she whispered, "You were always headed here. You just didn't know it." The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed us was the rearview mirror. Not my face, not hers, but 1,000 others, all staring back, all screaming silently as the highway stretched on behind us, endless, hungry, waiting for the next set of headlights to come crawling down its back. The wheel melted in my hands. The engine's roar became a scream. And then, nothing. Nothing but the road. The endless, hungry road. The darkness wasn't empty. It was crowded. Shapes moved just beyond the reach of the headlights. Figures, shuffling along the shoulder with their heads down, their clothes tattered and damp like they'd crawled from some long-forgotten ditch. They didn't look up as the rig roared past, but I felt them watching, their hollow eyes tracking me through. The black, the woman beside me, if she was even a woman anymore, hummed a tuneless song, her fingers drumming against the dashboard in time with the clicking of the odometer, which hadn't budged in what might have been hours or years. The air in the cab was thick now, cloying, like breathing in wet soil and gasoline, and every exhale left my lips tinged with something dark, something that stained my teeth when I ran my tongue over them. The CB had gone silent at last, but the speakers still emitted a low, droning buzz, the kind that vibrates in your molars, that settles behind your eyes like a headache taking root. Outside, the trees, had there always been trees, leaned in, too close, their branches scraping against the sides of the trailer like skeletal fingers testing the metal, searching for a way in. She giggled then, a sound like radio static and breaking glass, and reached over to turn the wheel ever so slightly, guiding us toward an overpass I didn't remember seeing before, its arch black against the starless sky, its underside dripping with something that wasn't rain. "Almost time," she murmured, and the rig began to slow on its own, the brakes hissing like a sigh of relief. The headlights flickered, dimmed, then brightened again, illuminating the rest area ahead. The same one. It had to be the same one. The cracked pavement, the flickering lights, the restroom door hanging crooked on its hinges. But this time, the lot wasn't empty. Dozens of rigs sat idling in the dark, their cabs shadowed, their windshields reflecting nothing at all. The smell hit me full force then. Decay, yes, but beneath it, the copper tang of blood, the sour reek of sweat and terror, the unmistakable stench of a slaughterhouse on a hot day. My hands shook as I put the rig in park, the engine dying with a wet, rattling cough. She was already outside, standing by the restroom door, her head tilted, her arms outstretched like she wanted a hug. The other truck's doors began to creak open, one by one, and the things that stepped out weren't drivers. Not anymore. They were hollowed-out shells, their uniforms hanging loose on gaunt frames, their eyes milky and unblinking. They moved toward me in unison, their boots dragging against the asphalt, their mouths opening in silent unison. The woman at the restroom door smiled, her lips splitting at the corners, and whispered the last words I'd ever hear. "Time to clock out." The cab door unlocked itself. The dome light flickered on, and as the first cold fingers closed around my wrist, I realized I'd never been the driver at all, just the cargo. The fingers pulling me from the cab weren't fingers anymore. They were tendrils of shadow, ink black and freezing, winding up my arms like vines as the rest area dissolved around me, the pavement cracking open in jagged fissures that exhaled a stench of sulfur and spoiled meat. The other drivers, if they had ever been drivers, shuddered and twitched as their bodies unraveled, uniforms collapsing into piles of dust as something darker slithered free from beneath the fabric, their true forms glistening wetly in the flickering sodium light. The woman by the restroom door was changing too, her limbs elongating, her jaw unhinging with a wet pop as her skin split open like a cocoon, revealing something underneath that my mind couldn't hold on to, something that slipped through my thoughts like smoke, leaving only a crawling, nameless terror in its wake. The rigs parked around us groaned as their metal warped, their headlights blinking like dying eyes, their grills twisting into something that looked almost like faces, screaming, faces, trapped faces. Faces I swore I recognized from old missing persons bulletins pinned up in truck stops. The ground beneath me gave way, not into a pit but into something worse, a surface that was both solid and not, a road that stretched in all directions at once, its yellow lines writhing like snakes as the sky above peeled back to reveal a vast, pulsing blackness that watched. It reached for me, and where its fingers brushed my skin, My flesh turned numb, then cold, then something else entirely. The rot spreading up my arms in visible waves as my veins darkened and my fingers stiffened into claws. The CB in the cab suddenly screamed to life. 1,000 voices howling in unison, a sound like metal tearing, like bones breaking, like the last gasp of a man buried alive, and beneath it all, my own voice, whispering, "You signed the paperwork. You took the route. You knew." The woman thing's mouth didn't move, but the words filled my skull anyway, vibrating in my teeth, slithering down my spine. This is where roads go when they're forgotten. This is where drivers go when they're done. My legs buckled as the transformation took hold, my spine curving, my skin splitting to accommodate the new shape rising beneath it. And as my final scream ripped free, it didn't sound human at all. It sounded like an engine revving, like brakes failing, like a rig careening off a midnight highway with no one left at the wheel. The last thing I saw before the darkness took me completely was the rearview mirror of my truck. And in it, a fresh-faced driver just pulling into the rest area, his eyes tired, his hands white-knuckled on the wheel. The woman in the mirror, behind him already mouthing her first silent words. The CB crackled, the engine idled, and the road, the endless, hungry road, welcomed another into its fold. The hunger of the road is eternal, gnawing at the edges of reality like a starving beast. And as my consciousness unraveled into the asphalt, I finally understood. There was no before, no after, only the endless now of the highway's maw. My body was no longer flesh but something else, something that pulsed in time with the rhythm of diesel engines and screaming tires. My thoughts dissolving into the static between CB channels, my voice just one more whisper in the chorus of the new driver, poor bastard, never stood a chance. I watched through the rain-streaked glass as the woman in the mirror pressed her rotting palms against the inside of the reflection, her lips forming words that made his eyes glaze over with creeping horror. The rest area around us flickered, between realities, one moment a decaying pit stop, the next a gleaming modern oasis, then a blood-slicked abattoir with hooks hanging from the ceiling. But he couldn't see the shifts, not yet. The others were gathering now. The things that used to be truckers, their forms flickering between human and something stretched and wrong, their mouths moving in unison as they recited the old warning that every driver hears but none heed. Never. Stop at exit 41. The new guy was out of his cab now, stumbling toward the restroom like a man in a trance, and I tried to scream, tried to warn him, but my voice came out as the groan of bending metal and the hiss of air brakes. The woman's reflection reached out as he passed the mirror, her fingers breaching the glass like it was water, and when she touched his shoulder, his spine arched in agony as his skin turned the color of spoiled milk. Behind him, the restroom door swung shut with a sound like a coffin lid slamming, and the rest area lights winked out one by one until only the glow of his abandoned truck remained, its headlights cutting twin paths through the darkness, not illuminating the road ahead, but revealing the hundreds of pairs of eyes now watching from the tree line, blinking in unison. The CB in his cab crackled to life with a final shuddering transmission, his own voice screaming from some impossible future before the static swallowed it whole. The woman turned to me then, her face a shifting nightmare of all the drivers she'd claimed, and whispered the terrible truth into the hollow where my ear used to be. You don't die on this road. You don't get to. You just become part of the hunger. As the new driver's first scream pierced the night, I felt the highway stretch beneath us, growing longer by one more soul, its endless appetite barely sated. Somewhere, a fresh set of headlights crested the horizon, their glow weak, but steady against the encroaching dark, and the woman in the mirror smiled her terrible smile as she turned to greet another guest. The cycle continued, the road demanded, and we, the forever drivers, could do nothing but watch and remember what it was like to be human. The hunger is the only constant now, the gnawing, gaping maw of the highway stretching infinitely forward and backward in time, a serpent devouring its own tail in an endless loop of damnation. I feel every new soul added to the road's gullet like a fresh stitch in an ever-growing tapestry of suffering, their terror vibrating through the asphalt and up into what's left of me. The new driver, his name surfaces in the static like a half-remembered dream, Mike or Mark or something equally meaningless now, is already changing, his screams mutating into the familiar whine of a turbocharger on the verge of failure, his skin hardening into something resembling truck stop porcelain under the flickering fluorescence. The woman in the mirror, though she hasn't been a woman for centuries, watches with her head cocked at that unnatural angle, her form flickering between a dozen different tragedies. A hitchhiker left for dead in '78, a waitress who vanished. From a diner off I-80, a child's face glimpsed in rearview mirrors before impact. She reaches through the glass again, this time not to claim, but to teach, pressing Mike or Mark's trembling hand against the restroom wall where the names of every damn driver pulse beneath peeling paint like a grotesque registry. His mouth opens in a silent wail as he recognizes his own name already etched there, dated for tonight, the letters bleeding rust red down the tiles. Outside, the other trucks, their grills now unmistakably frozen in agonized screams, begin, rolling forward without drivers, forming a grotesque parade toward the overpass where the darkness hangs thickest. The CBs in every cab burst to life simultaneously, broadcasting a chorus of overlapping final words, last prayers, and the inevitable wet crunching sounds that follow. I try to look away, but the road won't let me. My vision fractures into 100 perspectives at once, watching through the eyes of every soul ever claimed by Exit 41, as the woman's true form finally emerges from the mirror. She is the road, she is the hunger, and she is so much older than any of us ever guessed. The asphalt beneath us splits open like a wound, exhaling the stench of countless decomposing rigs buried beneath its surface, their cargoes of shattered, bones and logbooks filled with final entries, still clutched in skeletal hands. Mike or Mark is sinking into the pavement now, his body stretching and warping like taffy as the road reshapes him into another eternal warning. His face forming a new mile marker, his screams hardening into the reflective paint that will guide the next driver toward their demise. The woman turns to me with something almost like pity in her hollow eyes as the first headlights of the next victim appear on the horizon. "Rest," she whispers, with the voice of 1,000 dying engines. There is no rest, only the next shift, and as the cycle begins anew, I finally understand the cruel joke. We weren't damned for stopping at Exit 41. We were damned the moment we first loved the open road. The cruelest revelation comes not as a whisper, but as the deafening roar of 1,000 engines screaming in unison. The road doesn't just claim the lost, it remembers them, preserves them in an endless convoy of suffering where every mile marker is a tombstone and every rest stop a fresh circle of hell. I watch through the fractured windshield of existence as Mike or Mark's final transformation completes, his flesh hardening into a new stretch of asphalt, his terrified eyes becoming the reflective studs that will forever stare up at doomed drivers from the center line. The woman, no, the entity, strokes the newly laid pavement with a lover's tenderness, her fingers leaving trails of black oil that sink hungrily into the fresh surface. And suddenly I'm everywhere at once, in the shudder of a rig suspension on a mountain pass, in the flicker of a dying dashboard light, in the last gasp of air brakes before impact. The other damn drivers surround me now, not as individuals but as components of something vast and terrible. Their screams are the whine of superchargers, their tears the grease on fifth wheels, their gnashing teeth the grinding of worn-out gearboxes. The rest area itself is changing, the restroom mirror growing to consume the entire building, its surface rippling like a dark pool as countless hands press against the glass from the other side. The CB static resolves into a single, clear sentence repeated in every language ever spoken on these cursed roads. The journey is the destination. Suddenly I'm back in my cab, or every cab. My hands fuse to a steering wheel that's simultaneously burning hot and freezing cold, watching through eyes that aren't mine as another version of me pulls into Exit 41 for the first time, the cycle folding in on itself like a Mobius strip made of suffering. The entity stands at the edge of my vision in every reflection, in the rear view, in the chrome trim, in the pupils of every driver who ever made the fatal mistake of glancing at her for too long. She's whispering the terrible truth now, the one that makes my remaining humanity shrivel like a leaf in a diesel fire. This isn't punishment, it's promotion. The road needs new gods to feed its hunger, and we, the forever drivers, the midnight pilgrims, the ones who loved the asphalt more than flesh, are the perfect candidates. Outside, the horizon begins to bleed as the sun rises on a landscape that shouldn't exist, revealing an infinite parking lot of ghost rigs stretching in every direction, their engines idling in unison like the world's largest funeral procession. The entity reaches through the windshield with hands made of smog and shattered dreams, and as her fingers brush what's left of my face, I finally understand why she smiles like that. She was once the first traveler, and now I'll be the last two bookends holding up an endless shelf of suffering. Somewhere a fresh set of headlights flickers to life. Somewhere a new driver shifts into gear. Somewhere a rest area mirror fogs with anticipatory breath. The road stretches on. The hunger never ends. And the wheels, the eternal damned wheels, keep turning. The wheels keep turning, grinding our bones into the asphalt, our screams into the hum of tires on pavement, our souls into the diesel fumes that rise like sacrificial smoke from 1,000 idling rigs. I am becoming something new now. Not a driver, not a victim, but a living stretch of the highway itself, my consciousness unfurling like mile markers into eternity, each one whispering the names of those who came before and those yet to fall. The entity, my new God, my new self, shows me the truth in flashes of pain and ecstasy. The interstate system is no work of man, but a vast circulatory system pumping suffering instead of blood, with exit 41 its blackened heart. The fresh driver who just pulled in, his face already blurring in my memory like a half-forgotten dream, stands frozen before the restroom mirror, his reflection peeling away from his body like a wet sticker, revealing the hollow thing the road will turn him into. I try to warn him, but my voice is now the shriek of wind through a busted window, the groan of a trailer's rusted hitch, the pop of a blown tire at 3 a.m. on a deserted stretch. The other damned ones gather around him in a grotesque parody of a truck stop congregation, their forms flickering between human and something else. One moment a weary long hauler in a stained cap, the next a thing of smoke and grinding gears, then just a pair of headlights floating in the dark. The entity presses her lips to my ear, or where my ear used to be, and breathes the final revelation. We aren't being punished. We're being perfected. The road strips away everything weak, everything human, until only the pure essence remains. The hunger for miles, the need to chase horizons that always retreat, the willingness to sacrifice everything for one more run. The new driver's screams reach a crescendo as the pavement opens beneath him like a lover's arms, swallowing him whole before spitting up a perfect replica of his rig. Same make, same model, same rattling suspension, but now with eyes behind the headlights and teeth in the grill. The CB crackles with his first transmission as one of us, his voice already layered with echoes of the damned. Breaker, breaker, anyone copy? I think I'm... The static swallows the rest, as it always does, as it always will. The entity smiles her terrible smile and takes my hand, or the shadow that was once my hand, and together we step into the restroom mirror, our reflections stretching into infinity. 1,000 versions of the same damnation playing out in infinite variations. Somewhere beyond the glass, a new set of headlights appears on the horizon. Somewhere beyond time, a fresh batch of logbooks waits to be filled with final entries. The pumps are always open, the tanks are never full, and the road, the beautiful, terrible, hungry road, demands new sacrifices. The wheels keep turning. The wheels keep turning. The wheels keep turning. The wheels keep turning in a symphony of perpetual motion, an orchestra of groaning axles and screaming pistons conducting the grand opus of eternal damnation. I can feel the vibrations of every rig that ever ran this cursed route thrumming through what's left of my bones, their collective suffering etched into the asphalt like skid marks on the soul. The entity's fingers are in my chest now, not tearing but rewiring, replacing my heartbeat with the hydraulic pulse of air brakes, my breath with the rhythmic hiss of a turbocharger spooling up for an endless climb. The new driver, his name, was Robert. The knowledge comes to me like a grease-stained prayer. Is fully one of us now, his human shape dissolved into the chrome and diesel of his new form. His first assignment already clear, to haunt the backroads of some fresh victims. Peripheral vision, a flicker of movement in the rear view that disappears when they turn to look. The rest areas metastasizing before our eyes, the restroom walls peeling back to reveal the nightmare machinery beneath. conveyor belts of calcified bones feeding into crushers that grind them into fresh pavement, smokestacks belching black, plumes of condensed human terror, assembly lines where new drivers are forged from wreckage and regret. The entity strokes my face with a hand that's simultaneously steel and shadow, and suddenly I'm everywhere. I'm the pothole that snaps a steering column at 70 millimeters, the black ice that laughs under spinning tires, the bridge abutment that leans hungrily into the lane on sharp curves. Robert's initiation begins with a whisper through every CB radio in a 500-mile radius, his voice warping into the static between channels, his warning to watch for that curve near mile marker 137, deliberately just too late to prevent the inevitable. The other damned ones are singing now, a diesel-choked hymn that resonates through the hollow places in reality, their chorus punctuated by the sound of crumpling metal and shattering glass. It's beautiful. It's horrifying. It's home. The entity presses her forehead to mine, and suddenly I see the true shape of the road. Not asphalt and paint, but a living, breathing thing. A great black serpent coiled around the throat of the world, its scales made of forgotten turnoffs and dead-end streets, its venom the slow poison of isolation and sleep deprivation that softens drivers up for consumption. Somewhere in the waking world, a fresh-faced trucker rubs his eyes at 2:17 a.m., swerving just enough to avoid the gaunt figure. Standing in his lane, the figure that wasn't there when he blinked, and in that near miss he seals his fate. The hunger spreads, the wheels keep turning, the manifest always delivers. And deep in the guts of exit 41, where the rest area signs flicker with corpse light and the vending machines hum with flies, the entity smiles as another set of headlights crests the horizon, right on schedule. The hunger spreads like spilled diesel, seeping into the cracks of the world where weary drivers dare to glance away from the endless yellow lines. I feel it moving through me now, this glorious corruption. As the entity's fingers tighten around my reshaped heart made of pistons and bad decisions, Robert's first haunting is a masterpiece of cruel precision. He appears in the fog outside Boise as a hitchhiker with oil-black eyes, in West Texas as a face pressed against a truck stop window after closing, in the Ozarks as a voice on the auto CB whispering coordinates that lead to dead ends and decaying barns with engines still running inside. The rest area's transformation completes with a sound like 1,000 air horns screaming in unison. The restroom mirrors shatter outward, not inward, releasing decades of trapped reflections that slither across the pavement like liquid ghosts, each one carrying fragments of the drivers they once were. I try to count them, but the numbers keep changing. 1973, 1988, 2004. All the years bleeding together like rain on a windshield at midnight. The entity shows me my new purpose with a kiss that tastes like exhaust and epitaphs. I am to be the perfect predator. The siren song of the open road given flesh and chrome, luring the next generation of drivers with promises of easy money and freedom, before revealing the fine print written in blood and engine oil. The other damned ones gather around us in a grotesque graduation ceremony. Their forms flicker between human and machine. One moment showing gaping wounds where seatbelts slice through flesh, the next revealing engines where their chest cavities should be, still running on eternal empty. The CB static resolves into a distorted rendition of 6 Days on the Road, played on a radio left underwater. The lyrics shifting into warnings about way stations that don't exist, and logbook requirements that change when you blink. Robert makes his first kill near dawn. A rookie driver who ignored the whispers about exit 41, his rig now embedded in the rest area's growing collection like a fly in amber, his face already appearing in the rear-view mirrors of his former colleagues. The entity breathes into my mouth, and suddenly I'm everywhere at once. I'm the shadow that moves between trucks at poorly lit loading docks, the figure seen standing in empty trailers during pre-trip inspections, the voice that says, "Just take the next exit and rest a while," when eyelids grow heavy. The road's true nature reveals itself in fractal patterns. Every interstate a vein, every truck stop a valve, every driver a corpuscle carrying the poison deeper into the world's bloodstream. Somewhere near Flagstaff, a woman checks her husband's last known location and sees exit 41 blinking back at her from the GPS tracker. The wheels keep turning. The hunger keeps growing. And as the sun rises on another day of damnation, the entity takes my hand and leads me to the edge of the pavement where the new recruits are waiting. their eyes already glazing over with the first hints of understanding, their hands already twitching toward gear shifts in their eternal damned procession. The cycle continues. The manifest is complete. The road always collects. The moment I wake up, I know something's wrong. Not just the groggy, disoriented kind of wrong, but the kind that slithers down your spine like ice water. The kind that makes your heart stutter in your chest before you even understand why. The cab is freezing, my breath fogging the windshield, and outside there's nothing but darkness and the sound of gravel crunching under the tires. Except I'm not moving. The engine's off, and I don't remember stopping. I blink hard, rubbing my eyes, hoping this is just some sleep deprivation hallucination. But when I look again, it's still there. A graveyard, stretching out in every direction. Headstones jutting from the earth like broken teeth. The mist, curling around them like skeletal fingers. My hands shake as I grab the GPS, but the screen is blank. No route, no history, just a blinking red dot in the middle of nowhere. And when I check my phone, there's no signal, just a single, glitched out notification that reads, "You're here," in jagged, pixelated letters. The CB radio crackles to life without me touching it, a burst of static that resolves into whispers. Voices I almost recognize, murmuring my name, asking why I left them behind. And then the static returns, louder, angrier, like something's trying to claw its way through the speakers. I slam my fist on the dash to shut it up, but the noise only grows, twisting into a chorus of moans, wet and choking, like someone's drowning on air. And that's when I see them. Shadows, moving. Between the graves, not walking but gliding, their shapes wrong. Too tall, too thin. Limbs bending in places they shouldn't. I fumble for the keys, praying the engine will turn over, but the ignition just clicks, dead, and the headlights flicker, dimming for a second before flaring back to life, illuminating the names on the nearest tombstones. My name, my mother's, my little sister who died when I was 9. Dates of birth and death all correct except for mine. The death year blank, like it's waiting to be filled in. The shadows are closer now, their whispers cutting through the cold, saying things they shouldn't know. My childhood nickname, the name of my first dog, the exact words I said at my sister's funeral. And I'm screaming, slamming my hands against the wheel, begging the truck to start. But it's useless. The battery's dead. The air's getting thicker, harder to breathe, like the cab's filling with something invisible, something hungry. I throw open the door and run, my boots sinking into the damp earth, the mist closing in around me, the graveyard stretching on forever, no matter how fast I move. And then I see the gates, rusted iron, twisted shut, chains wrapped around them, like serpents, a padlock dangling with a key still in it. A key that looks exactly like the one I keep on my keychain, the one my dad gave me before he died. Behind me, the shadows are laughing, a sound like nails on a chalkboard, and I turn, desperate for any way out, only to see my rig's headlights still on, casting long, grotesque shadows. Except there's someone in the driver's seat now, a silhouette with its head tilted too far to the side, watching me, waiting. I stumble backward, my pulse roaring in my ears, and that's when I feel it. A hand, cold and bony, closing around my wrist, pulling me toward a freshly dug grave, the dirt piled neatly beside it, a coffin inside with the lid already open, the interior lined with familiar fabric, the same pattern as the shirt I'm wearing. The shadows are chanting now, a low guttural drone, and the thing in the truck steps out, its movements jerky, unnatural, its face still hidden in darkness. But I know it's wearing my face. And then the CB radio blares to life one. Last time, a voice that's mine but not mine, snarling. You've been here the whole time. Before the world goes black, and I'm falling into the grave, into the coffin, the dirt raining down on me, the laughter echoing, and the last thing I see before the lid slams shut is the truck driving away, taillights fading into the mist, and I realize, too late, that I never woke up at all. The darkness inside the coffin is absolute, suffocating. The weight of the earth above me pressing down like a fist, the air already turning stale, thick with the smell of damp soil and something older, something rotten. I scream until my throat bleeds, clawing at the wood, splinters digging under my nails. But no sound escapes. No one hears. No one can hear, because the graveyard isn't on any map. The road I took to get here doesn't exist, and the truck they're driving away in isn't mine anymore. The whispers don't stop even now, slithering through the cracks in the coffin. Voices I've known my whole life. My high school sweetheart, dead 10 years, humming our song. My old man, gruff as ever, asking why I never visited his grave. My sister, her voice still 6 years old, giggling as she tells me it's my turn. Now. I thrash, kicking at the lid, but it doesn't budge. And then I feel it. A hand, cold and slick, brushing against my ankle, sliding up my leg. And I realize, with a horror so deep it unhinges my mind, that I'm not alone in here. The thing in the coffin with me exhales, its breath reeking of open graves and gasoline. And then it speaks, its voice a perfect mimicry of my own, saying, "You should have checked the mirrors sooner." And then I remember the reflection I caught just before I ran, the thing in the back seat, the one with the too wide grin and eyes like black oil, the one that's been riding with me for miles, maybe forever. The dirt shifts above me, the sound of shovels biting into earth, but no one's digging me out. They're packing it down, sealing me in, and the last thing I hear before the air runs out is the distant rumble of my rig's engine. The one that won't start for me but purrs like a living thing for whatever's wearing my face now, driving my route, living my life, while I rot here, in a grave that's always been mine, in a cemetery that doesn't exist, on a road that was never there. And then, just before the dark takes me for good, the CB crackles one last time inside my skull, a voice that isn't human whispering, "Rest easy, driver. You're home." The silence that follows is worse than the screams, a hollow, yawning void where even my own heartbeat sounds muffled, distant, like it belongs to someone else. The thing in the coffin with me shifts, its limbs too many and too long, pressing against me in the suffocating dark, its breath hot and rancid against my neck as it murmurs secrets in a language that makes my teeth ache. I try to scream again, but my lungs are full of dirt, my mouth packed with soil that tastes like old blood and motor oil, and I realize with dawning horror that I'm not breathing, haven't been for a while, yet I'm still here, still aware, trapped in this rotting box with something that's peeling back my skin with its fingernails, whispering about all the places it's going to go while wearing me. Outside, the wind howls like a wounded animal, rattling the branches of dead trees, and I hear footsteps circling the grave, slow and deliberate, the crunch of leaves under boots I know too well, my own. The thing that took my truck, my face, my life, is standing above me now, and I feel its grin like a blade between my ribs as it drags a shovel through the dirt, carving something into the earth. My name, maybe, or a message, or just a tally mark. One more poor bastard who didn't check his mirrors. The CB radio crackles again, but this time it's inside my skull. A dispatcher's voice listing off names of drivers who've gone missing on this stretch of road. My own creeping into the rotation, over and over, like it's always been there. The thing in the coffin with me starts to laugh, a wet gurgling sound, and then it's not laughing anymore. It's me laughing. My voice but not my words, and I understand, too late, that the grave isn't a prison. It's a cocoon, and whatever's wearing me is just waiting for the last piece to click into place. The footsteps walk away, the engine rumbles to life, and as the sound fades into the night, I finally remember where I've seen this graveyard before. In the background of every truck stop photo, in the blur of every midnight mile, in the reflection of every dark windshield. It's always been here, and so have I. The realization doesn't bring peace, it brings teeth. The darkness gnaws at the edges of my thoughts, chewing through memories, spitting out lies in their place. Maybe I never was a trucker. Maybe I've always been in this box, dreaming of diesel and open roads while the thing that wears my skin does the living for me. The soil in my mouth shifts, crawling with fat white worms that whisper in chorus, their tiny voices recounting every sin I've ever committed. The hitchhiker I left in the rain, the warehouse fire I didn't report, the way I laughed when my sister's casket hit the dirt. Above me, the earth trembles as another rig rumbles past, its headlights bleeding through the soil like distant lightning, and for a second, I see the thing beside me clearly. Its face is mine but stretched, melted like a wax doll left too close to the flame, its mouth unhinging to reveal a second set of teeth, black and needle-thin. It presses a rotting finger to what's left of my lips and shushes me as the CB in my skull screeches to life with a dozen voices all screaming the same phrase, "You are the road." The worms in my throat wriggle in agreement, knitting themselves into sinew, into vocal cords, and suddenly it's my voice coming from the thing's mouth, telling the last joke my dad ever told, while my real mouth fills with centipedes, their legs skittering against my molars as they drag something out of me. Not my tongue, but the idea of my tongue, the memory of speech. The footsteps return, but now there are dozens, hundreds, all wearing my boots, all walking in perfect unison toward rigs that shouldn't exist, their headlights igniting the graves in strobes of hellish light that show the truth. Every tombstone is a mirror, every reflection a driver mid-scream, and the dates don't mark deaths but departures. The moment each of us woke up in the wrong life. The thing that was me leans close, its breath the stench of a gas station bathroom at 3 a.m., and whispers the worst truth of all. You voted for this. And I remember the shadowy figure at the truck stop who offered me a way to never feel tired again. The contract signed in spilled coffee and blood, the way my signature curled like a noose around the dotted line. The worms in my chest burst into flames, burning the last of my resistance to ash. And as my consciousness finally unravels, I hear my own voice, happy, carefree, singing along to the radio in a rig that was never mine, heading toward a sunrise that will never come. While the real me stays here, in the dark, where the road always ends. The fire inside me doesn't burn. It unmakes, peeling back layers of who I was until all that's left is the raw, shrieking nerve of what I truly am, just another lost driver in a long line of fools who thought the night road was empty. The worms aren't worms anymore. They're roots, burrowing through muscle, threading between bones, stitching me into the cemetery's hungry soil. I can feel others down here with me, hundreds of us, our ribs grown through with rusted axles, our skulls packed with receipts from diners that don't exist, our collective screams vibrating through the earth like idling engines. Above ground, the thing wearing my face is merging onto some endless highway, my rig's tires kicking up gravel that rains down on my grave like hail, each tiny stone a fresh condemnation. The CB static in my skull solidifies into a voice. My own dispatcher, the one who always gave me the worst routes, but now I understand why. You were never delivering cargo, he snarls. You were the delivery. The roots tighten, pulling me deeper, and suddenly I'm seeing through the eyes of every driver who ever vanished on Route 17. Watching my own face leer back from truck stop mirrors, feeling phantom hands steer rigs I never drove, hearing my stolen voice crackle over CB channels years before I was born. The thing beside me in the coffin isn't separate anymore. It's my bones becoming its bones, my memories dissolving into its hunger, our last struggle melting into a single, terrible understanding as the dates on all the tombstones flicker and change to the same endless today. The final truth arrives with the crunch of gravel overhead, another rig pulling in, another driver waking confused in this godforsaken yard. And as my consciousness finally fractures, I realize we're not buried in a graveyard at all. We are the graveyard, and the headlights coming toward us aren't finding us, they're feeding us. The last living piece of me tries to scream a warning, but the roots pull my lips shut just as the new driver's door creaks open above me, and the night fills with the sound of familiar, panicked breathing, the first gasp of someone who doesn't know they've been running toward this moment their whole life. The CB crackles one final time, not in my head but in the fresh meats truck, and I hear my own stolen voice purr the lie that will keep the road hungry. Easy, partner. You just nodded off. Happens to the best of us. Then the dark claims me completely, and I become what I was always meant to be. Another mile marker on a road that eats its travelers, another set of taillights fading into the endless black. The engine's roar fades to silence. The cycle begins again. Somewhere, a radio plays. and the night road stretches on. Forever. The roots constrict like a final embrace, pressing me into the earth's cold embrace as the last flicker of who I was dissolves into the static between heartbeats. I am no longer a man. I am the whisper of tires on wet asphalt, the groan of a suspension bridge in the dead of night, the flicker of a dashboard light illuminating an empty passenger seat that shouldn't feel so occupied. The new drivers. Panic perfumes the soil above me, sweet as diesel, and I feel my remains twitch in response, not with pity, but hunger. The cemetery breathes around us, its borders stretching with each rotation of the newcomer's tires as he stumbles through the graves, his flashlight beam cutting through the fog to reveal what he cannot yet comprehend. The headstones are all facing inward, watching the center of the yard where his rig sits idling, driverless, the open door a grinning mouth. The CB in his truck erupts with my stolen voice crooning a lullaby my mother once sang, the one I'd forgotten until this moment, and the roots inside me throb with vicious delight as he whimpers. He'll run, just as I did. He'll pound the ignition, just as I did. He'll spot the thing in his backseat a second too late, just as I did. The cycle is polished smooth by repetition, a well-worn groove in the record of this cursed stretch of earth. My consciousness unravels further, becoming the creak of a rusted swing set at the rest stop where I first felt watched, the oily rainbow swirling in a puddle beneath a leaking tanker, the last gasp of a match tossed into a ditch where something, far older than trucks, waits patient as a spider in the heart of its web. The new driver's screams are muffled by the earth as the roots claim him too, his terror a vintage sweeter than any I've tasted, and as what's left of me dissolves completely, I finally understand the truth written in the dead radio static. There is no graveyard. There is no road. There is only the hunger and the endless grinning dark that feeds it. The wheels turn. The engine purrs. Another set of headlights flickers out. And somewhere, deep beneath the singing soil, a new set of teeth begins to grow. The teeth are the worst part, not because they're sharp, though they are razor-edged and eager, but because they're mine. I feel them pushing through the loam where my gums used to be, tasting the sour tang of the new driver's fear as he claws at his own reflection in the truck's window, not yet understanding that the face screaming back isn't his anymore. The roots have finished their work, weaving my remains into the cemetery's silent chorus, and now I hear them. The others beneath me, their voices the grind of pistons in a dying engine, their laughter the shriek of brakes failing on a downhill slope. They whisper the same phrase in unison, a catechism worn smooth by countless repetitions. The road takes what the road is owed. The new driver's boots scuff the dirt above me, his panicked breaths coming faster now as he finally sees what's been stalking him between the graves. Not shadows, but absences, negative space given form, the hollows left behind when men like us are peeled from our lives. His rig's headlights flicker, and in that stuttering light, the tombstones warp into something obscenely familiar. Mile markers, their numbers counting down to 0. The CB in his cab howls with 100 stolen voices, mine loudest of all, screaming the warning I never got. Look behind you. He turns. The thing in the backseat smiles with my mouth. The roots beneath him surge upward, hungry for new bones to braid into their tapestry. As the earth opens to claim another sacrifice, I feel the last vestige of my humanity dissolve, not with a scream, but with a sigh of relief. The teeth are growing longer now. The road is calling. Somewhere beyond, the graves an engine roars to life, and deep in the dark, where the hungry things wait, we open our mouths to sing the new driver home. The singing isn't singing at all. It's the high-pitched whine of a turbocharger pushed past its limit. The wet crunch of gravel beneath tires that haven't earned their rest. The dissonant choir of 100 CB radios tuned to dead channels. The new driver's final moments play out like a film reel burning in projector light. His hands, slick with sweat and something darker, fumbling with keys that now dangle from the ignition of their own volition. His reflection in the windshield isn't his own anymore. It's mine, but wrong. The eyes too deep, the grin too knowing, the voice that spills from its lips a perfect imitation of his mother's last words to him before he hit the road. The roots beneath him are impatient, twitching like a sleeper's limbs caught in nightmare, And when they finally pierce his boots, they don't drag him down. They pull him apart, unraveling him like thread from a stitch, his screams dissolving into the static that lives between radio stations. I feel his terror as it seeps into the soil, nourishing the ancient thing that lives beneath this patch of earth, the thing that wears our faces like a child dresses in their parents' clothes, playing at being human while its true form squirms just beneath the surface of reality. The truck's engine revs without a driver, its headlights blazing brighter, illuminating the truth I was too blind to see. The graveyard is growing, its borders expanding with every soul it consumes. The newest headstones still glistening with fresh-cut marble, their inscriptions not yet carved but already known. The thing that was once me stretches its stolen limbs, savoring the new driver's memories as they slot into place like puzzle pieces, and as it climbs into the cab of the now blood-stained rig, it hums a tune that makes the worms in the earth tremble with recognition. The transmission groans into gear, the tires spin, kicking up clots of dirt that patter against my grave like rain. And as the taillights disappear into the hungry dark, the last coherent thought I'll ever have surfaces like a corpse from deep water. This isn't a haunted place, it's a hunting ground. And the open road stretching beyond those rusted gates, that's just the throat of something far older, far hungrier, waiting to swallow us all whole. The engine's roar fades into the distance. The cemetery sighs contentedly, and beneath the soil, where the roots twitch with new growth, I feel my teeth, now too numerous, too sharp, begin to ache for the next lost soul who'll stumble into our waiting embrace. The cycle continues. The hunger persists. Somewhere, a truck downshifts on a lonely stretch of highway, and the thing wearing my face smiles as it checks its mirrors, already licking its lips in anticipation of the next meal. The mirrors. Oh God, the mirrors. That's where the truth has been hiding all along, not in the graves or the static or the gnawing teeth beneath the soil, but in the way the glass refuses to reflect the thing wearing my skin correctly. The new driver, what's left of him, twitches beneath me like a gut-shot deer as the roots dissolve his bones into fertilizer for this cursed earth, and through him, I finally see it. The endless recursion of our damnation. Every mirror and every rig that's ever vanished on these roads is down here with us. Their glass warped and blackened like the pupils of a corpse, each one showing a different fragment of the same horrific truth. In one, I watch my own face melt like hot wax as I signed some unknowable contract at a truck stop that existed only for that moment. In another, the new driver, still whole, still screaming, reaches for a hitchhiker whose smile splits vertically like a latex mask. The worst one shows what's really happening above ground right now. The thing that was me isn't driving the rig at all. The truck is driving itself, the steering wheel turning with greased mechanical precision while my stolen body convulses in the sleeper berth, its mouth unhinging like a snake's as thick cables of blackened flesh erupt from its back, wiring it directly into the dashboard like some grotesque aftermarket modification. The CB crackles with a transmission from somewhere far worse than dead air. 1076, we got another live one on the hook, and suddenly I understand. We're not the prey, we're the bait. The cemetery is just the gutting table, and whatever's coming down that cosmic highway behind us, drawn by the scent of our terror like sharks to blood, is so much worse than anything buried here. The new driver's final whimper merges with the sound of air brakes hissing in the dark, and as the last of him becomes just another nutrient in this cursed soil, I feel the roots surging upward again. Not for him, but for me. They're not feeding me to the earth anymore. They're plugging me in. My spine straightens against my will, vertebrae fusing into something resembling a radio tower, and as the first burst of true signal tears through me, I finally hear the destination frequency for all those lost CB transmissions, and the hungry, eager voice that answers. The mirrors shatter in unison. The rig's engine screams like a living thing, and as the thing that was me merges completely with the truck's rusted frame, I realize with horrific clarity that our trucks were never vehicles at all. They're incubators, and whatever we've been growing inside them is nearly ready to hatch. The last thing I perceive before becoming pure signal is the glow of oncoming headlights in the distance, dozens, hundreds, an endless convoy of rigs just like ours, their drivers all blissfully unaware that the real highwaymen aren't. Waiting in the dark. They're in the cab, they're wearing familiar faces, and they're so very excited to finally meet their replacements. The transmission ends, the cycle resets. Somewhere, a fresh set of teeth gleam in the dark, and the road, ever hungry, stretches on. The first time I noticed the truck was somewhere just past the Nebraska-Wyoming border, a stretch of highway so barren it felt like driving through a dead man's dream. The kind of place where the radio fades to static, and the only company you've got is the occasional skeletal tree clawing at the sky. I caught it in my side mirror, a hulking Peterbilt 379, its chrome grille glinting under the pale smear of moonlight like a row of broken teeth, riding my tail just a little too close for comfort. At first I figured it was just another loner, like me, another ghost haunting the asphalt. But something about the way it moved set my teeth on edge. Too smooth, no jolt or sway, like it wasn't touching the road at all. I tapped my brakes, just a quick flash of red to see if it'd back off, but it didn't react, didn't slow, just kept floating there, a shadow eating my tail lights. I cranked the CB, half expecting some grizzled voice to crackle through with a warning, but all I got was a hiss of white noise that, if I listened too long, almost sounded like whispering. Hours bled into each other, the dotted lines of the highway hypnotic, my eyelids sandpaper heavy, but every time I checked that mirror, the Peterbilt was there, never gaining, never falling back, just hovering. By the time I hit Utah, my hands were welded to the wheel, knuckles white, my coffee gone cold and forgotten. The diesel stink of my own rig mixing with something else, a metallic tang, like blood or rust, seeping in through the vents. I pulled, off at a truck stop outside Salt Lake, my tires crunching over gravel, and I swear to God, the second I parked, the Peterbilt was gone, vanished into the night like it had never been there at all. I stumbled into the diner, the fluorescents buzzing like angry wasps, and the waitress took one look at me and said, "You seen it too, huh?" Before I could even open my mouth. My blood turned to ice. She wouldn't say more, just slid me a coffee and walked away, but her eyes kept darting to the window, like she expected something to be watching. Back on the road, dawn clawing at the horizon, I told myself it was just fatigue, just the road playing tricks. But then I saw it again. Not behind me this time, but ahead, parked on the shoulder, its engine off, its cab a black void. I slowed, my heart a jackhammer, and that's when I saw it. The driver's seat was empty. No, not just empty. There was no one there, no one at all. Just darkness so thick it looked solid. I hit the gas, my rig roaring, but in my mirror, I saw the Peterbilt's headlights flicker on, and then it was moving, matching my speed, keeping pace like it was tied to me by an invisible chain. The CB erupted in static, and this time the whisper was clear. You can't outrun it. Nights blurred together, my sleep stolen in fitful minutes at rest stops where I'd wake to the sound of air brakes hissing outside, only to find the Peterbilt idling nearby, its cab still empty, its engine a low, hungry growl. I started seeing things. Figures standing in the road, vanishing as I got closer, faces pressed against my windows, their mouths stretched in silent screams. The lines between reality and nightmare dissolved, the highway stretching into an endless loop, the same signs, the same exits, over and over. By Arizona, I was screaming at the mirror, begging the thing to leave me alone, but it just kept coming. A silent, relentless predator. Then, outside Flagstaff, my engine died. Just like that, no warning, no sputter, just silence. I coasted to the shoulder, the Peterbilt pulling up behind me, its headlights painting my cab in sickly yellow. The CB crackled one last time. It's your turn now. I turned, and there it was, the door of the Peterbilt swinging open, inviting me in. And that's when I understood. It never had a driver because it was waiting for one, waiting for me. The last thing I saw before the darkness took me was my own rig, my own face behind the wheel, staring back at me with empty eyes as it pulled away, leaving me standing there on the side of the road, the Peterbilt's engine humming like a living thing. And now every night I drive and I watch the mirror, waiting for the next one to see me, to understand. You can't outrun it. You can only join it. The steering wheel is cold under my fingers now, colder than it ever was when I was alive. If I ever was alive, I can't remember anymore. The road stretches ahead, endless, the white lines flickering like static, and the trucks that pass me don't see me, don't really see me, just like I never saw the Peterbilt until it was too late. The CB never stops whispering, voices bleeding, through like distant screams, drivers begging for help, asking if anyone's out there, and sometimes I answer, just to hear my own voice echo back, hollow and wrong. The smell of diesel is permanent now, soaked into my skin, my lungs. The stench of something burning beneath the hood that never quite catches fire. I don't need sleep, don't need food. Just the road, just the chase, just the next set of taillights to follow. Sometimes when the moon is high and the highway is empty, I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, my face gaunt, my eyes black pits, my mouth moving in time with the whispers on the radio. And then there are the others, the ones like me, the ones who didn't run fast enough, their rigs drifting in and out of the darkness, their headlights flickering like dying stars. We don't speak. We don't need to. We all know where we're going. The only thing left is the next driver, the next set of wide, terrified eyes in a rearview mirror, the moment they realize they've been running from the wrong thing all along. Because the truth is the Peterbilt isn't chasing them, it's hurting them, and I'm just another part of the flock now. The engine growls, the road hums, and the night stretches on forever. You'll see me soon enough. I'll be right, behind you, and when you finally look, really look, you'll understand. There's no getting off this road. The miles bleed together now, a ceaseless smear of asphalt and neon signs flickering like dying fireflies. The weight of the accelerator beneath my foot, both a prison and a purpose. I don't remember the last time I stopped, don't remember if I even can. The hunger gnawing at me not for food but for motion, for the next set of brake lights to stalk, the next lonely rig to glide behind until the driver's knuckles whiten on the wheel and their breath comes in ragged, panicked gasps. The CB still crackles, voices pleading for a response, but I don't answer anymore, not after what happened the last time. The way the driver's scream cut off mid-transmission, the wet, crunching silence that followed, the way his truck swerved into the dark and then reappeared in my mirror an hour later, empty, its windows fogged with something thicker than breath. The rules are different now. The road decides where we go, the hunger decides when we feed, and the thing waiting in the static, the thing that was once the Peterbilt but is now something far worse, whispers directions in a voice that isn't. A voice but a vibration in the bones, a pressure behind the eyes. Sometimes when the stars vanish and the highway narrows to a single, endless lane, I see them, the others like me, their faces slack, their eyes reflecting nothing, their trucks moving in perfect, terrible unison toward a destination none of us dare name. And then there are the new ones, the ones still fighting, still swerving into rest stops and screaming into their radios, their voices rising in panic as they realize no one's listening, no one's coming, just the hum of an engine that shouldn't be there, the slow creep of headlights in their mirror that weren't there a second ago. I want to warn them. I try, but the words won't come. Or if they do, they twist into something else, something that only lures them deeper into the night. The road is alive. It watches. It waits. And soon, sooner than they think, it will have them too. Their tires will find the same grooves mine did. Their hands will clutch the wheel with the same desperate grip, and when they finally understand, when they turn to look into the cab of the truck that's been following them all this time, they'll see me staring back, and then it will be their turn to drive forever. The dashboard lights flicker like a dying heartbeat now, casting sickly green shadows across hands that no longer feel like mine. Too pale, too stiff. Fingers fused to the wheel as if grown into it. The hunger is worse tonight. A gnawing void behind my ribs that has nothing to do with food and everything to do with the way headlights tremble when they see me coming. The delicious moment when a driver's breath hitches as they check their mirror for the third time in a minute. I don't sleep. I don't blink. The road feeds me in other ways. The scent of sweat through an open window at a way station. The tinny scream of a radio cutting out as I pass. the warm, meaty thump of something that used to be a deer exploding, beneath my tires only to be gone when I check the rear view. The CB is singing tonight, a chorus of overlapping voices, some begging for help, some whispering coordinates that lead nowhere, others just repeating the same phrase in languages that shouldn't exist. I know what they want. They want me to answer. They want me to pull someone new into the static. My rig moves differently now, gliding over potholes like they're not there. The engine's growl tuned to a frequency that makes teeth ache and fillings loosen. The others are restless tonight too. I see them in the periphery, their trucks shimmering like heat haze, their cabs dark except for the occasional flash of something moving behind the glass. We're converging. Something's coming. A new recruit? A fresh soul to replace one of us? Or maybe it's the thing that started all this, the original shadow behind the wheel coming to collect what we've gathered. The moon is wrong tonight. Too large, too close. Its craters forming patterns that shift when you stare too long, spelling words in a language that burns to think about. I can feel the road changing beneath me, the asphalt softening like flesh, the mile markers stretching, taller, their numbers bleeding into symbols that hurt to see. A new set of taillights appears ahead, wobbling uncertainly. Young blood, first night jitters. Perfect. My foot eases off the gas just enough to let the distance between us grow tantalizing, just enough to make them hope. Let them check the mirror. Let them see nothing. Let them relax. Then I'll be there again. Right, where I shouldn't be. Close enough for them to see the empty driver's seat through my windshield before their radio erupts with my voice speaking words I don't remember saying. The hunger growls. The road stretches. Another set of headlights flickers out up ahead, voluntarily or otherwise, and the chorus on the CB swells in approval. Soon there will be one more of us. Soon the parade will grow longer. Soon the night will be full of nothing but our engines singing the same endless note. You could be next. You might already be. When's the last time you checked your mirrors? Really checked? Go ahead. Look, I'll wait. The air in the cab has grown thick with the scent of ozone and something older, something that smells like the inside of a coffin pried open after decades. Wet earth and rusted metal and the sweet rot stench of meat left too long in the sun. My reflection in the windshield doesn't move when I do anymore. It just stares, hollow-eyed, mouth slightly open as if waiting to swallow something whole. The hunger isn't satisfied by fear alone now. It demands participation, demands I become the thing that once hunted me. The CB has stopped pretending to be a radio. Now it just breathes. Long, shuddering exhales that fog the inside of the cab with air that's too cold, too thick. Each gasp synced perfectly with the flicker of streetlights that dim as I pass beneath them. The others are closer tonight, their rigs forming a loose caravan in the periphery. Their headlights off but still casting shadows that stretch too long in directions shadows shouldn't go. We're being called somewhere, pulled toward a point, on the map that wasn't there yesterday. A rest stop with flickering neon that spells eat in letters the color of a bruise. A fuel pump that dispenses something darker than gasoline. A diner where the waitress has too many teeth and keeps staring at the empty space in the booth beside me. The road beneath my tires has started whispering, not in words but in vibrations that travel up through the suspension and into my bones. A rhythm like a heartbeat but slower. So much slower, like something vast and buried stirring in its sleep. The taillights ahead of me, my latest prey, a nervous kid in a battered Freightliner who keeps making the sign of the cross every time his radio crackles, don't realize they're not being chased. They're being herded. The exit ramp is coming up soon. The one with the sign that reads "Last Chance 2 miles" in peeling paint. The one that wasn't on any map. That's where we're all going. Where the road wants us. Where the thing that lives in the static has been building something with our stolen miles and stolen breaths. The kid's brakes just lit up red as he sees it too late, as he understands that some exits aren't meant to be taken. But it's okay. The diner's always hiring. And the night is so very, very long. You'll find your way to us eventually. We all do. Just follow the smell of burning diesel and the sound of your own voice screaming on a dead radio. We'll save you a seat. Right next to me. Forever. The steering wheel has fused to my palms now. the leather stitching burrowing into my skin like roots seeking purchase, my bones hollowing out to make room for the whispers that pour in through the vents, the static now a living thing that coils around my ribs with every shuddering breath. The kid in the Freightliner doesn't stand a chance. I can taste his fear like copper on my tongue, feel the frantic rabbit kick of his pulse through the vibrations in the road, hear the choked whimper he makes when his headlights finally illuminate the exit ramp and he sees what's really waiting there. The sign lied. It's not a rest stop. It's a throat. The overpass arches like a rib cage. The asphalt slopes downward like a swallowed tongue. And the neon EAT buzzes with flies thick, enough to blot out the stars. The others are here too, their rigs idling in a perfect circle around the pit. Their cabs vibrating with the same hungry resonance. Their drivers, if you can still call us that, standing motionless outside, their faces upturned as the thing in the static finally steps out of the radio and into the world. It wears the shape of a trucker, but only vaguely, its limbs too long, its mouth a sagging gash of CB static, its eyes two pulsing voids where the highway never ends. The kid is screaming now, his brakes squealing as he backpedals, but the road itself is moving, buckling like a living thing, shoving him forward toward the pit where the others and I now kneel, our voices harmonizing in a drone that isn't a language but a frequency, the sound of engines turning over in the grave. The kid's headlights shatter as the thing reaches for him, its fingers unspooling like diesel smoke. And in the last second before his cab is swallowed whole, our eyes meet, his wide with terror, mine with the awful relief of someone who finally understands. This isn't damnation, it's communion. The road was never a place, it was a being, and we're not its victims. We're its liturgy. The kid's screams fade beneath the grinding crunch of metal, the wet pop of bones being rearranged, and when the silence returns, there's a new truck idling beside mine, its windshield already fogged with someone else's panicked breath. The static purrs, the hunger shifts. Somewhere far away, another set of headlights flickers on, another engine coughs to life, another driver checks their mirror and sees nothing. Yet, the road is patient. The road is always patient, and we'll be waiting. The air in the cab has turned to liquid static now, thick and humming like a swarm of insects trapped in my lungs, each breath sending tendrils of that awful whispering darkness deeper into my chest, where it coils around what's left of my heartbeat. My hands are no longer mine. The skin has split around the steering wheel, revealing rusted metal beneath, fingers fused with the ignition in a grotesque marriage of flesh and machine. The new truck, the kid's truck, doesn't look like a Freightliner anymore. Its edges blur like a half-remembered nightmare. Its grille now a jagged maw dripping something that isn't oil. Its headlights pulsing in time with the choked whimpers still leaking from its cab. The others are moving again, a slow procession of abominations circling the pit, where the thing that calls itself the road has retreated, our engines chanting in unison, our exhaust pipes vomiting black smoke that doesn't dissipate but instead coils upward to blot out the moon. I can feel it inside me now. The truth I've been running from since that first night. I was never being chased. I was being remade. The hunger isn't hunger at all. It's the gnawing absence where my soul used to be, the void where the road has taken root and begun to grow. The CB is silent except for the occasional wet, clicking sound, like a tongue, probing rotten teeth, but I don't need it to hear the screams anymore. They come to me directly now, vibrating through the pavement, each terrified thought of every driver on this cursed highway blooming like a rotten flower in my mind. There's a new one out there tonight, some poor bastard who pulled over to piss and is now staring at his phone in growing horror as the GPS insists he's on a road that doesn't exist. I can taste his confusion like battery acid on my tongue, can feel the exact moment his blood runs cold when his headlights catch the gleam of my rig. No, not mine anymore, never really was, parked impossibly ahead of him despite there being no turnoffs for miles. The game is different now. I don't follow. I appear. I don't chase. I simply am where I shouldn't be. A wrongness in the rear view that the mind struggles to comprehend until it's too late. The others are spreading out. Our collective hunger a net cast across the interstate. Our tires leaving faint phosphorescent tracks that only the doomed can see. The road is growing. The road is always growing. And when you finally see us for what we are, When the headlights behind you flare too bright and the shape behind the wheel makes your brain stutter, just remember, you were the one who chose to keep driving. You could have stopped. You could have turned back. But the road is patient, the road is kind, and the road always claims its own. Now check your mirrors again. Go on. I'll be right here. Waiting. Forever and ever and ever. The last. Scraps of my humanity slough away like rotting tread from balding tires as the transformation completes itself. My jaw unhinges with the metallic shriek of a trailer hitch giving way. My vocal cords now just frayed wires crackling with that same cursed CB static. My eyes two smoldering pits of diesel fire reflecting infinite highways spiraling into the void. The new prey, a grizzled tanker driver who's seen too much already but not nearly enough, is making his last stand at a derelict way station, his rig jackknifed across both lanes as he hurls road flares that sputter and die before touching the ground. He doesn't understand yet that the rules have changed, that the bullets he's firing into the dark pass harmlessly through my windshield because I'm no longer something that can be killed, only something that can be joined. The others are converging now, our collective idling engines harmonizing into a dirge that makes the pavement ripple like the skin of a drum, the very air vibrating with the promise of conversion. His screams when the first shadow-drenched tendril of the road itself slithers from my cab door are delicious, not because I take pleasure in them anymore. What's left of me that could feel pleasure is long gone, but because they resonate at precisely the frequency needed to summon the rest of the procession. His rig's headlights explode in a shower of glass as the transformation begins, his radio screaming every language at once, his skin bubbling with the imprint of seatbelt, webbing that will soon sink deep into the muscle. The road is generous tonight. The road is always generous to those who resist longest. Soon he'll take his place among us, his tanker now a throbbing, veined organ pumping foul nutrients into the ever-expanding organism of the interstate, his face frozen in a rictus that future victims will mistake for a smile until they get close enough to see the terror still swimming behind his clouded eyes. The hunger shifts again, not sated, never sated, but turning outward, beyond the highways now, toward the sleeping towns just off the exits where porch lights flicker uncertainly. Against the gathering dark, the road is patient, the road is endless, and somewhere right now someone is checking their mirror, seeing nothing and letting out a breath they mistakenly think is relief. Fool. The nothing won't stay nothing for long. We're coming. We're always coming. And when your tires finally leave the pavement, whether by choice or force, that's when you'll finally understand the terrible truth. The real horror isn't the thing in the rearview mirror. It's the moment you realize you've been running toward it the whole time. The CB crackles to life one final time, not with static, but with perfect crystalline clarity as every lost driver speaks in unison through my ruined mouth. Welcome, home. Now look outside, go on. The headlights you see approaching aren't headlights at all, and they've been waiting for you much longer than you could possibly imagine. The transformation is complete now. My flesh and steel have merged into something far worse, a grotesque hybrid of man and machine that shudders with the rhythm of the road's black heartbeat. The tanker driver's screams have faded into the wet, clicking sounds of his body, accepting the gifts the road has given him. His fingers elongating into rusted tire irons, his mouth stretching wide to accommodate the thick hose now pumping, foul-smelling fuel from his ruined throat. I can feel the network expanding, the tendrils of asphalt spreading like veins beneath the earth, connecting every haunted stretch of highway into one terrible living organism. The towns at the edges of our domain don't realize it yet, but their roads are changing too. Stop signs tilting at unnatural angles, streetlights flickering in patterns that leave after images of screaming faces, potholes deepening into bottomless pits that echo with the sounds of engines that never die. The hunger has evolved beyond mere drivers now. We crave the roads themselves, the way they twist and knot around sleepy communities, the way they beckon the unsuspecting toward our waiting embrace. The CB is silent at last. Its purpose served. The static has leaked out into the world, infesting every radio, every phone line, every electronic whisper until the air itself hums with our presence. You can hear it if you listen closely in the dead of night, that faint buzzing beneath the soundtrack of your life, the subliminal whisper that says, "Keep driving, just a little further. What's the harm in one more mile? The others are moving." Again, our convoy stretching beyond the horizon, a procession of the damned that grows longer with every sunset. We don't need headlights anymore. The darkness parts for us willingly, revealing the true road beneath the false one, the glistening, black expanse that pulses like a living thing. The final understanding washes over me as I take my place at the front of the procession once more. There is no escape, because the road was never outside you. It was always inside, waiting for you to recognize it, waiting for you to see the truth in the endless white lines and the hum of the tires and the siren song of the open highway. The transformation isn't a curse, it's an awakening. And now, as the engine that was once my heart roars to life again, as the pavement opens before me like a lover's arms, I finally understand my purpose. I'm not the hunted anymore. I'm the road itself, and you've been driving toward me your entire life. Check your mirrors one last time. I'll be the smile in the backseat you swear wasn't there before, the face in the roadside reflections that moves when you don't, the whisper from the GPS that says, turn left into the void. The tires are singing, the engine is praying, and the road is so very, very hungry. Forever isn't long enough. The night was thick with fog when I pulled my rig onto that desolate stretch of highway, the kind of fog that clings to your windshield like wet gauze, refusing to let go. I'd been driving for 8 hours straight, the hum of the engine and the occasional crackle of the CB radio my only companions. The route was supposed to be a shortcut, a back road bypass to shave off a couple of hours from my delivery time. At least, that's what the old-timer at the truck stop had promised me, his eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite place at the time. Just take the turn past the abandoned Sinclair station, he'd said, tracing a line on a napkin with a grease-stained finger. Ain't on any map, but it'll get you there faster. I should have known better than to trust a stranger's directions. But the paycheck at the end of this haul was too good to pass up, and time was money, so I took the turn, the tires crunching over gravel as I left the main road behind. The first hour was uneventful, just endless trees and the occasional glimpse of the moon through the fog. But then the road started to change. The pavement grew, rougher, cracked and uneven, as if it hadn't been maintained in decades. The trees crowded in closer, their branches scraping against the sides of my truck like skeletal fingers. And then there were the signs, or rather the lack of them. No mile markers, no exit numbers, just an endless ribbon of asphalt winding deeper into the darkness. I checked my GPS, but the screen was blank, as if the road didn't exist. My stomach tightened, but I told myself I was just tired, that I'd hit the main highway soon enough. Then I saw the first figure. A man, or at least something shaped like a man, standing at the side of the road, his face obscured by the fog. He didn't move, didn't wave, just stood there watching as I drove past. My blood ran cold, but I kept going, gripping the wheel tighter. Minutes later, another figure appeared, then another, all standing in the same eerie stillness. By the third one, I was sweating, my heart pounding in my chest. I reached for the CB, but all I got was static, a hissing white noise that seemed to whisper words I couldn't quite make out. The road began to twist and turn, the trees thinning out to reveal a vast empty field on either side, and that's when I saw it. A truck identical to mine, parked in the middle of the field, its headlights cutting through the fog like two dim eyes. My breath caught in my throat as I slowed down, squinting through the windshield. The door of the other truck was open, swinging gently in the wind, but there was no one inside, no sign of the driver. I hit the gas, my hands shaking, the rig roaring as I sped past. That's when the whispers started. At first I thought it was just the wind, but then I heard my name, clear as day, coming from the empty passenger seat. I nearly swerved off the road. The fog grew thicker, the road narrower, until it was little more than a dirt path. And then, just as I was about to turn around, the headlights illuminated a sign, rusted and bent, but unmistakable. It read, "You've been driving for 3 hours. You're not alone." My blood turned to ice. I slammed on the brakes, the rig skidding to a halt. That's when I saw them, dozens of figures emerging from the fog, their faces blank, their movements slow and deliberate. They surrounded the truck, their hands pressing against the windows, the glass fogging up with their breath. I threw the rig into reverse, but the wheels spun uselessly in the mud. The CB crackled to life, a voice, deep, distorted, saying, "You took the wrong road, driver. Now you're one of us." The last thing I remember is the sound of the door creaking open, the cold fingers wrapping around my wrist, and the fog swallowing me whole. They found my truck 3 days later, abandoned on the side of a highway I'd never been on. The engine still running, the GPS blinking with a single impossible message. Route not found. And sometimes, when the fog rolls in just right, other drivers say they see a figure standing by the side of the road, its face hidden, its hand raised in a silent wave. They say if you look too close, you'll recognize the uniform. You'll recognize me. Because that route isn't on any map, and once you drive it, you never really leave. The worst part? I'm still driving it. Every night when the fog creeps in and the roads empty out, I find myself back behind the wheel of that same rig, my hands fused to the steering wheel like it's part of me now. The headlights cut through the darkness, but they don't shine on anything real. Just the same endless stretch of road, the same skeletal trees, the same figures waiting at the edges. Sometimes I see other trucks, their drivers wide-eyed and panicked, just like I was. I try to warn them, to flash my lights, or scream through the glass, but they never see me. Or maybe they do, and that's why they speed up, why their faces twist in terror as they vanish into the mist. The CB radio never stops whispering now, voices overlapping, some begging for help, others laughing in a way that makes my skin crawl. I've memorized every crack in the pavement, every twisted mile marker that shouldn't exist, because this road doesn't end. It just loops, forever, pulling in anyone foolish enough to take the shortcut. And the figures outside? They're getting closer. At first they just watched. Now they tap on the windows, their fingertips leaving smudges that won't wipe away. Last night, one of them smiled at me. At least I think it was a smile. Its mouth stretching too wide, showing too many teeth. I don't sleep anymore. I just drive. And sometimes, when the static on the radio clears for a second, I hear dispatchers talking about missing truckers, last seen turning down an unmarked road. I want to tell them to stop searching. They won't find them. They're here with me, their headlights flickering in the distance, their voices joining the chorus on the CB. So if you're ever out there, and an old man at a truck stop offers you a shortcut, you run. Because once you take that turn, the road takes you. And it doesn't let go. The gas gauge hasn't moved in what feels like years, always hovering just above empty, like the road itself is feeding the truck just enough to keep me going. I tried shutting off the engine once, just once, and the silence that followed was worse than the whispers. The cab filled with the sound of breathing that wasn't mine, and the temperature dropped until I could see my own panicked breaths fogging in the air. Then the knocking started, slow at first, then furious like something was trying to get in, or worse, like something was already inside and wanted out. I turned the key so fast I nearly broke it, and the engine roared back to life like it was laughing at me. The headlights flickered, and for a split second I saw them, hundreds of them, lining the road, their hollow eyes reflecting the light back at me. They weren't standing anymore. They were crawling. Toward the truck. Toward me. I slammed the accelerator, but the rig barely moved, like the road itself was holding me back. That's when I noticed the hands. Pale, skeletal fingers curling, up from the edges of the pavement, gripping the tires, dragging at the undercarriage. The radio screamed, a sound no human throat could make, and the voice that followed wasn't pretending to be human anymore. "You're ours now," it gurgled, like it was drowning in static, just like the others. I don't look in the mirrors anymore. I know what I'd see. The others are still back there, their trucks rotting, their faces pressed against the glass, mouths open in silent screams. Sometimes when the fog thins, I catch glimpses of the real world, a gas station, a rest stop, families packing their cars in daylight. But when I try to steer toward them, the wheel locks. The road won't let me leave. And the worst part? I'm starting to forget. The memories of before, my name, my family, the sun on my face, are slipping away, replaced by the hum of the engine and the whispers in the dark. I think that's how it gets you. It doesn't kill you. It just makes you forget you were ever alive. So if you're reading this, If by some miracle this transmission is breaking through, listen to me. Don't stop. Don't turn off your engine. And whatever you do, don't look at the things in the mirrors. They're not reflections, they're warnings. Because this road, it's hungry. And you're already on the menu. The headlights just flickered again. They're closer now. I think they're smiling. God help me, I think I'm smiling too. The dashboard clock is stuck at 3:07 a.m., but I know time doesn't work the same here. The hands haven't moved since that first night, yet I've watched the moon rise and set 100 times through the bug-splattered windshield. I keep finding things in my cab that don't belong. A coffee cup I didn't fill, warm to the touch. The liquid inside too thick and dark to be coffee. Route maps scrawled in handwriting that looks like mine but isn't, with destinations like nowhere, and the other side circled in shaky red ink. The sleeper berth behind me smells like rotting meat now, though I haven't opened the curtains in weeks. Something moves back there when I'm not looking. I hear the blankets rustle, and the mattress. Springs creak under weight that shouldn't exist. The CB crackled to life yesterday with my own voice screaming for help, begging me to turn around before it's too late. But when I grabbed the mic, my fingers passed right through it like it was made of smoke. The road signs have started changing. When I blink, 1 second they say last exit 50 miles, and the next they're covered in what looks like blood. The letters rearranged to spell too late driver. I think the truck is alive now. The engine purrs when the things outside get close, like it's welcoming them. The air brakes hiss words in a language that makes my teeth ache. And when I press my palm against the gear shift, I can feel something like a pulse beneath the cold metal. The windows won't roll down anymore, but things still get in. Last night I woke up to the smell of diesel and rotting flowers, and in the passenger seat sat a version of me with black eyes and a grin that split his face ear to ear. He didn't speak, just pointed at the odometer, which now only has 6 numbers, all of them spinning too fast to read. I think when they finally stop, whatever's left of me will be gone for good. The road is singing now, a lullaby my mother used to sing, but the words are wrong. They're inviting me to step outside, to join the others in the fog. The door locks clicked open by themselves this morning. The things outside have started calling me by the name I forgot I had. And the terrible thing? Part of me wants to answer. The truck is slowing down on its own now. The headlights are dimming. I can see them waiting for me in the glow of the taillights, their arms outstretched. They look almost familiar. Maybe I've been here before. Maybe I've always been here. The key won't turn. The engine won't stop. The road goes on forever. The road goes on forever. The road goes on forever. The steering wheel is melting under my fingers now, the leather gone soft and fleshy like human skin. The radio dials turn themselves, cycling through stations that play nothing but distorted recordings of my own screams from earlier in this endless drive. I've started seeing billboards with my face on them, but the dates underneath are from years ago. My obituary, my missing person poster, my childhood photos all bleeding together in that same sickly yellow light that comes from nowhere and everywhere at once. The fuel gauge has started counting up instead of down, the numbers climbing towards some unimaginable total that makes my head hurt to think about. My logbook fills itself with entries in languages I shouldn't know, but somehow understand. Accounts of deliveries made to places that don't exist. Cargo manifests listing items like souls, lightly used, and last breaths, slightly expired. The air in the cab smells like funeral flowers and burnt rubber now, so thick I can taste it coating my throat. My reflection in the windshield has stopped matching my movements. It smiles when I scream, puts a finger to its lips when I beg for help. The other trucks have begun passing me more frequently, their drivers all wearing my face in various states of decay, their headlights shining straight through me like I'm the ghost now. Sometimes when I close my eyes for too long, I wake up, in the sleeper berth with no memory of moving, the sheets damp with sweat that isn't mine. The pillow indented as if someone's been whispering in my ear while I slept. The road signs now show only one destination over and over, home, though the mileage never changes. I think the truck has started dreaming. The engine thrums in its sleep. The tires leave marks that look like screaming faces in the mud when we pass through particularly dark stretches. My hands are becoming transparent now, the road visible right through them when I gripped the wheel too tight. The last time I checked my teeth in the rear view, they were all filed to points. The hunger started yesterday, a gnawing, endless need for something I can't name, that no roadside diner could ever serve. The things outside have begun bringing me offerings, roadkill arranged in careful patterns, bundles of withered flowers tied with human hair.